The creepy creature began to transform, and then it instantly ate the girl. The planet Earth wanted to change, and that's how this story begins. Izumi was lying on his bed and heard a nasty voice, and when he tried to answer, he was told to shut up, which scared him beyond belief. He went down to his family, and his father asked if he had found the snake. While he complained that his arm was numb, his mother said that he had to eat, and then his father said that they had a good scare last night. Izumi was scared of a small spider. It turned out he had been scared of them since he was a kid. The monster listened to the news and parroted the voice, then heard the voice of a little girl, and he headed that way. At that time, the usual life was going on in the street for everyone. The girl noticed the protagonist, and then in her head a brilliant plan. She got close to the guy and tried to hit him, but he easily caught her hand, and then very scared. The girl thought that he knew exactly where she was, because how else to explain that he caught her hand so easily? Suddenly the girl's face twisted, and between them there was a pause. It turned out that the guy right during their conversation began to paw the girl's breasts. She that logically got angry and hit him hard. The classmates said that it was not necessary to groping in the open. The guy didn't want to talk about his experiences. He was falling asleep in class at the time, though his hands seemed separate from his body as he looked through his phone. It turned out last night, a strange creature tried to get into his nose, but he failed, and the guy woke up and then prepared for battle. The creature disappeared, then instantly jumped right on the hand of the hero and began to move towards his head. Parents came into the room and could not understand what their son is talking about. The boy tried to show the place where the creature crawled under his skin, but there was nothing there. Izumi wondered if the snake was still in his hand. At that time, a teacher caught him sitting on his phone and yelled at him. At recess, he met a girl he'd groped, but she was still hurt. The friend promised to take care of it, then told him the guy was acting weird. And he decided to answer that he was sick. Then he went to ask to go home. Izumi was walking down the street and thought about whether the hand can move on its own, as suddenly the car began to go at high speed, and a little girl was in his way. The guy saved her by stopping the car with his hand, which was just incredible. He was scared of such a thing and ran home, where he immediately found a knife. Then he spoke to the hand and began to threaten with the knife. Suddenly his hand began to transform, and the monster called it a non-task. He identified himself as a righty and said he had failed. Turns out the monster only ate his right hand. The guy got hysterical and instantly tried to chop the creepy creature, but it easily repulsed this simple attack and continued to talk about how it was very hard for him to talk now. It called out the name of the hero, after which it was incredibly frightened. His hand got tired and then fell asleep. His mom knocked on the room. She was worried about her son, and he told her not to come in. The guy got on the computer and started Googling all the information he could. That's exactly what he asked until the evening, but he still couldn't find any information. The mom called the guy over for dinner at that time, and the dad arrived home. They were worried about the guy, and the hero talked about how he just felt a little sick. He asked for a refill, then started eating, and thought about not telling anyone about the hand. In another part of town, an alcoholic was walking after a drink and saw a terrible sight. And a woman saw an incredibly gruesome corpse. At that time, the hero thought that he should not tell anyone about the hand. He tried to wake her up, but she did not answer. The next morning, the guy woke up, after which he was angry at the situation in which he found himself. His hand was studying all the information about the world. It turned out that it had already learned to speak normally. He thought it was alien, but she still didn't know the word. She quickly learned the meaning, after which the ruler started talking about not remembering where he came from. He only remembered the frustration of not being able to eat the guy's brains. There was no way he could do that now. Pravik began to talk about what could have happened if he had managed to take the guy's body. It turned out that the hero had fallen victim to the creature was just a coincidence. Izumi decided to go to the hospital, as he was going to amputate the creature, while Pravik talked about how if he was killed, he would die. He wanted to make it clear that they would both lose from this outcome. Pravik said that when he sleeps, the right hand would be at the disposal of the man. Then he started to say that they should learn to coexist. Then he instantly started to fall asleep, and the guy's anger was unstoppable. All that was left was the mess in his room that needed to be cleaned up. At that time in the kitchen, Izumi was asking his mom for more food, and his father talked about the fact that murder cases had started to appear all over the country. He talked about how they were horrible murders. The mother stopped the man as they were about to eat. At that time, the father tried to scare the boy with a spider, but he was not only not scared, he threw it out the window, which amazed the parents. At the time the guy was walking down the street, the hand noticed that the guy changed his route. Ruka began to convince the hero not to go to the police. They would better coexist. Pravik talked about the fact that there was a colleague near them. He began to talk about the fact that he was near. The hero began to move according to the instructions of his hand, but at one point he stopped and thought. After he continued on his way, it turned out that the fellow ruler also sensed them and was heading towards them. The hero thought about the fact that this fellow could get to the brain of the man and changed his mind to go straight to him. Then Pravik had to take the matter in his fingers, and he attached the guy to the pillar. He wanted to find out who he was. The guy decided to agree to meet the fellow. At the time, the parasite was talking about what the fellow was eating right now. When the hero got to the place, he saw a dog that was eating another dog. The parasite said that he also had a failure. Then it stared at the hero with a creepy look. Pravik reacted in time, and they started to run away. The enemy didn't trust them as Pravik couldn't eat the hero's brain. Pravik was about to fight. At that time, the enemy grew wings and flew straight at them. The hero was incredibly frightened, at which time Pravik entered the battle, in which he managed to instantly rip out the heart of his fellow hero. It turned out that if you destroy the body, the parasite also dies. The enemy's parasite was sitting in the dog's head, and they were lucky that it was incredibly weak, as it could not develop in the dog's environment. At that time, the protagonist noticed that the ruler reminded him more of some kind of mindless insect. A little while later, he was washing his hand. 2 days ago, late at night, a horrible man was killing a woman, after which he started laughing at the top of his voice straight up into the sky. As he began to fall, a strange egg, from which just the same parasite appeared in the guy's hand. The girl began to be harassed by the guys. She felt bad and tried to run away, but she failed and the bastards continued to harass her. Suddenly some man intervened, and they started walking together. Suddenly one of the enemies hit the man with a metal pipe, after which he started complaining that he couldn't eat that many, and instantly chopped up the enemies, and finally he decided that he needed to change his face. At that time, the protagonist decided that he didn't want to go to the police as he would be in great danger if he didn't have the parasite by his side. They started talking about how the creature didn't have a name, and the parasite suggested calling him Prakik. Izumi was surprised at the straightforwardness of this, but it turned out that the Prakik just didn't like to bother with names. At that time in school, Izumi scored a very cool goal, after which the girls were amazed by the guy. The girl said about Satomi will forgive the hero if he can throw another ball. At that time, another man was angry and hurt the hero. Izumi started to play, and the game was about to end, and at the last second the hero was able to throw the ball. Then the guy thanked the ruler for helping him. At that time, the other guy was incredibly angry. A little while later, Satomi came to the storeroom where Izumi was. She was embarrassed, and the guy apologized to the girl. He started to justify himself, after which he apologized again. Satomi decided that she would forgive the guy if they went out to eat. She seemed to be completely happy with this outcome, and the hero was also happy. Suddenly the ruler began to show himself, which scared Izumi a lot, and caused misunderstanding from the girl. She asked all the same hero Izumi she knows, and after answering she smiled and said goodbye. At that time, the guy started to clarify the relationship with the ruler, who explained that he became interested in the mating process. And also the ruler noticed that Izumi wanted the female he had just apologized to. Izumi was very embarrassed. At that time, a guy who doesn't like him showed up and they went to the roof. He was angry about the protagonist's behavior. Then he told him that he liked Satomi and offered to fight. The protagonist didn't want to start a conflict, then he was instantly punched in the face. The guy didn't understand why, and the enemy kept on attacking. The hero realized that if he hit with his right hand, the man could die. The enemy kept on striking, and Izumi's face instantly changed, and really scared the guy. Pravik gave a serious blow to the man, after which Pravik said that the enemy was definitely not dead, but he was incredibly scared and ran away. Pravik also said that you can't keep things to yourself for too long. In the bathroom, there was an incredibly awkward situation. Pravik spoke. He wanted to try to bring the hero to orgasm, which logically caused a negative reaction of the guy. He began to wash his hand with cold water. At the time, he was approached by another guy who was surprised that the hero was talking to his device. A little while later, the girl told about a killer mesnik who was killing huge numbers of people around the world and leaving horrible corpses from people. The girl assumed that some horrible organization was behind it all. At that time, the guy remembered that the girl's brother is a detective. They talked about that most likely the government has already started to act. At that time, the hero talked to the ruler, and he said that it was his relatives. He also said that when a parasite enters the host body, it begins to feed on similar creatures. The hero thought about whether they will continue to keep silent about themselves. He did not want to leave everything just so, because now a huge number of people are dying. The hero thought about telling the world the truth. At that time, Pravik did not understand anything, because food is normal. Pravik did not understand why human life is priceless. Only his own life was important to him. The hero did not expect another answer from the insect. It seemed that such words slightly hurt Pravik, and he said that if the hero tries to harm the parasite, he will use force. He also said that he could take away the guy's tongue, leave him without ears. The parasite was incredibly creepy, and then he told Izumi to go to bed. As he lay on the bed, he called the Prakik a real demon. At that time, the parasite thought that people are more suitable for the role of demons because they kill a huge number of creatures, but they only kill members of their own species. At that time, on the street, life was going on, and the hero thought that for the parasite, people are no more than an appetizer. At that time, one of the parasites read the news and marveled at the stupidity of people who reacted to the death of just a few relatives, while for their own sustenance, countless animals die. The creature seemed to sense the kin. The hero stood still. Then the ruler told of the conjurer, who was already nearby. They began to leave, for if they met, one of them would be finished. Izumi began to leave, after which the hero decided to shoot the enemy face to face. He believed in the power of Pravik and also wanted to see this creature. Pravik didn't understand why the hero was trembling with fear, but treads illogically. Izumi spoke to the Pravik and started to ask for help. At that time, the enemy was already behind his back. The enemy immediately realized why the hero was running away. The enemy became disturbed. The guy started calling the enemy a monster. At that time, the Prak ordered the enemy to stop. The enemy offered Pravik to merge with his body. He talked about how the Pravik could easily take the place of his arm, and then he cut off his arm. A place for the Pravak appeared on the man's body. He spoke of how they would become stronger together. The enemy said that they could live for 140 years if everything went well. The enemy attacked the protagonist, but Pravik did not stand still and killed the enemy parasite, after which he began to die slowly and painfully. Izumi thanked the ruler for saving him, and he explained that he was not sure that the merger would be successful. In the evening, the hero reflected on the fact that the ruler preferred the protagonist, even though he could have gone to a fellow protagonist. The next day, the girl ate a delicious meal, and the guy had a similarly delicious lunch. As soon as the girl noticed that he was lost, he started to pretend that everything was fine, and then together they started laughing. They were walking and discussing the fact that the girl was not allowed to go out after the Mesnik killer showed up. At that time, the protagonist thought about what would happen if the girl found out about the ruler. He asked the girl if she liked animals, and she said she did, but she didn't like snakes. At that time on the playground, the bastards were bullying the cat. The girl wanted to leave, and the hero went straight to the horrible people. He told them to stop and then freed the poor cat. They said it was just a joke. The hero didn't understand such horrible behavior. Then he went straight to the girl, and the guys threw stones directly at Izumi, but he easily caught all the stones flying in his direction, then made an incredibly creepy face and asked if the guys are tired of their miserable life. They were incredibly frightened by this arrangement, and the hero together with the girl went on. In the evening, they continued to walk, and the hero thought that people really look like demons. He and the girl held hands and walked together. Suddenly, she decided to change hands, and they continued their adventure. Late at night, the two parasites stood naked in front of each other. At that time on the train, the girl turned to the man in the gray coat. She ordered him to stop spreading his hands. At that time, the man began to say that it was not him, and he did not do anything. Eventually, he flew off the carriage at a great speed, and the girl went on her way. The father talked about who won the literature prize. It turned out that the main character knew the author and the book that won. Then they started talking about the killer Mesnik, who again committed a huge number of murders. The guy thought that he might be the only person who knows the truth. A little while later, the guy was walking to school and met his girlfriend. she noticed that the guy had changed. He thought that he hadn't changed in any way. The ruler started talking to Izumi, then told her that the fellow was nearby. He slowly approached them. He was rapidly approaching the guys, and it turned out that the parasite was in the school, and as soon as everyone gathered in one place, the hero began to look for the parasite, but could not understand where it was. Pravik warned the hero not to look him in the eyes, because they will be revealed. At that time, the director said that they have a new teacher. She came on stage and introduced herself as Taumi Ryoko. Pravik said that this girl is a parasite. It turned out that she will replace the teacher in the class of the main character's girlfriend. As soon as Shinichi looked into the girl's eyes, her face changed and became incredibly creepy. She was able to realize who the hero was. While others thought it was okay, the hero was incredibly scared. At the time, the hero was talking to Pravik, who called the girl very talented, as she not only managed to keep her master's social position, but also managed to teach somehow. Pravik said that it was unlikely that the girl would commit a massacre, as she was trying to fit into society. At that time, the parasite was teaching a lesson. The hero was worried because Pravik fell asleep. At that time, the teacher gave everyone a task and began to approach the hero, after which she did not understand why the guy absolutely does not write anything. The girl asked Izumi to come to the teacher's room. Odnoklas Neely called the guy a real lucky guy. Izumi was very angry at the words of a classmate, after which he began to leave. They didn't really understand why the hero had such a reaction. At that time, Pravik started talking to the hero. They went to the teacher, after which she assumed that the hero knew her secret. The girl said that she wouldn't hurt them. She said that she just wanted to talk. They agreed to meet at another place. The hero was afraid. At that time, the girl said that all people are very illogical, because if she wanted the guy dead, she would have killed him long ago. She offered information, after which she left the room. Another man approached her and asked if she was busy in the evening, but she excused herself that she was, and said that she was busy with tutoring. A little later, the girl noticed that the hero went somewhere on a Vobus. At that time, the guy was sitting in a cafe. Pravik said that the girl took another parasite with her, after which Pravik asked the guy to calm down. After which the two parasites arrived at the place, and it turned out that the second parasite has the name of Mr. A. As soon as they saw each other, they got ready to fight. After everyone calmed down, the hero talked to the girl. She was wondering who they were in the eyes of the guy, and he called them ogres and monsters, and the girl told about the fact that she slept with Mr. A. The waitress turned the dishes, while the girl continued and told that she got pregnant. She thought about what kind of fetus was ripening inside her, and they came to the conclusion that she was growing a normal human baby. The guy asked about why they eat people. Pravik talked about getting food from the hero. At that time, the girl said that they did not reproduce. They also had to eat their own kind. At the time, the guy didn't understand anything. At that time, Mr. A got up. He was stupid and he didn't care who he was. He was only interested in eating when he was hungry. When he left, he thought that the hero was a dangerous organism that needed to be eliminated. At the time, the girl believed that the fault of all this is the environment in which he developed. The girl also said that people are illogical and just in case warned that if the guy goes against her, she will kill the whole class. She knew that the girlfriend of the hero learns in her class. Later at home, he was incredibly frightened. At that time, the governor was amazed by it, and the hero decided to take revenge by pouring cold water on him. The next day, the friend asked the guy where he went on the bus, but he did not confess, and then Pravik told her that he felt thirsty for blood. It turned out to be the same Mr. A. He arrived at the school and started causing terror. The principal decided to call the police and get the students out. The hero did not realize who was thirsty for his blood, and it turned out that this is the same man who right now began to kill people, which the ruler told the hero. The principal announced to everyone that they should leave the school. At that time, Pravik said that the enemy is short-sighted, and he also said that the girl will definitely not interfere in this situation. Later, the whole class was gathered, and they all went to the exit. At that time, Pravik said that the enemy was moving towards them. Pravik had a plan. Her friend asked who the guy was talking to, and he said he was thinking out loud. They saw the same man. At the same time, Pravik said that people prevent the enemy from noticing them. He also said that while the enemy will break through the people, Pravik will attack and kill the enemy. As soon as the hero heard this horrible plan, he started to run away. The girl wanted to stop the hero, but he yelled at her and then ran away. Preen tried to attract the monster to him. while Preen didn't understand why the hero didn't like his plan. Izumi explained that he didn't want people to die. He then set up the desks for defense, while the school children were gathering outside. At that time, Prak asked how they differed from the enemy. The hero said that the enemy was one and they were two. Pravik obtained a weapon for Izumi, and then explained that they had only one choice, so the hero had to fight. At that time, the girl was worried about the protagonist. At that time, the guy himself hid his weapon, they were baracked, and the guy believed in his right. He could not understand where the enemy had gone, and the one was right under him. The enemy did not go as the hero planned, and found himself trapped together with him. They stood in front of each other, and in a moment will begin a fight not for life, but for death. The hero was terrified, while the enemy prepared for battle and advised the hero to surrender because he could not handle him with one hand. Izumi was incredibly scared, but he remembered the words of Pravik. The enemy attacked, but Pravik entered into battle with the enemy. They blocked each other. At that time, the hero could not even keep track of the enemy's attacks. It turned out the guy's plan was that while Pravik was distracting the enemy, the hero should attack the enemy and kill him. Pravik thought the enemy wouldn't even consider the guy. They continued their battle, after which the hero began to approach the enemy. He decided to fully trust Pravik, after which he was already incredibly close. Izumi realized that the enemy's body was human. Then he drew his weapon and instantly pierced the enemy's body. The enemy was able to throw the hero away. Then he was shocked that his body was attacked. He couldn't believe that a human could behave so bravely. At that time, Pravik was very curious about how the enemy would die. At that time, the enemy was thinking about how to survive, and he interrogated himself, and then started to run away. Pravik said that they need to finish the enemy. The hero thought that if they continue and finish him, he will become a killer. At that time, the enemy couldn't believe that he would die at the hands of a human. The enemy wanted to find a new body. Then he decided to split the girl's body in two. At that time, the police came to the school and the enemy kept walking, and as soon as he saw the girl, she jumped from the window and there was a big explosion in that office. Later on, the news wrote about the killer who massacred the school. His father said that the hero was lucky to be alive. At the time, Izumi thought about the fact that he had become a killer. Later, everything went back to normal. The girl continued to teach classes. The guy realized that the girl was definitely still eating people, and he didn't want to let her get away with it. After the girl began to say that since she was pregnant, they had to fire her from her job, she asked not to make a scandal out of it and left the school. At that time, the hero was thinking about killing Tamiya Ryoko, but he thought that the hero would not be able to kill her because she had a baby inside her. The guy talked about how the girl didn't need to kill people. She talked about how they had to feed on people, and then told him that many organisms can do certain things from birth. She thought it was some kind of decree from above, after which the hero didn't understand what she was talking about. The girl said that the order she heard sounded like this: eat them. They remained standing in front of each other. The hero decided to ask the last question, namely how the girl will do with the child. She was going to give birth to it, and if the experiment is not successful, she will eat it. The guy got the girl, after which he decided to kill him, and the Prak was afraid. Because she had a strong transformation, the girl noticed something in the eyes of the guy, and then changed her mind, because such a sample should not be killed. The girl was visited by her mother, after which she decided to leave. Her mother stopped her and asked her to turn around. As soon as she saw the parasite, she immediately realized that it was not her daughter. She knew for sure that it was not her daughter and was incredibly scared, after which she was instantly killed. The girl couldn't understand how the woman was able to expose her so easily. At that time, the hero woke up, then immediately spoke to the ruler, but he disappeared. It turned out he could disconnect from the body of the guy. Mom went into the guy's room and saw an awkward picture. The hero didn't understand what the ruler was doing, and he said that he was testing how long he could live outside of the main character's body. The hero talked about how the parasites that were able to consume the brain could change bodies, and Pravik confirmed that this was the case. The parents said that they wanted to go on vacation, and then the son started to worry, the father talking about how the victims started to appear less often. The father started teasing the hero, and the mother said that if he insisted they would not go anywhere, she wanted to hear the answer to the question. She was worried about her son. He cleverly ran away from the answer and went outside. Prak reminded that if the hero tells his parents about him, he will kill them without question, because Prak has no love. At that time, the parents were talking about their son hiding something. The father said that it is normal for their boy to have a secret. He was worried that it was the girl's scar. In the past, the boy asked his mom for an aluminum plate. Then the boy tried to get it, but he fell from the chair. At the same time, he caught the hot pot. The girl reacted instantly and saved the boy, but her hand was very badly wounded. Pravik looked at the weapon and imitated it. Pravik also talked about letting the parents go, because statistics say that parasites prefer lonely victims. Suddenly, right during the conversation, his mom came into the room and started asking who the guy was talking to. Izumi was frightened, and then he began to shout that his mother should knock before entering the room. The girl was upset and left. She was worried because her son yelled at her. At that time, the father assumed that the boy was twitching. Later, the hero said that the parents would still go on a trip. At that time, the mother could not understand what was going on with the boy. She was very worried and could not understand why he now agreed. She thought that the guy had become different, and she began to think that opposite to her sits not her son. They wanted to hear the answer of the guy, but he could not say, and then began to tell that he was lonely. But now he calmed down, and everything will be fine. The parents seemed to calm down. The next day, the parents were packed. They talked about how they couldn't afford a trip to the sea before. The cab arrived, after which they began to say goodbye, and the parents left, leaving the hero alone. At that time, the girl stood and grabbed her stomach. She felt the strap inside her start to move. The car was driving on the road. At that time, the girl was worried that the guy was driving her to Tico. Then she did not understand why the belt, and he was distracted from the road and the car crashed. The girl fell out of the windshield, and the body was badly damaged. The man was able to get minimal injuries. At that time, the parasite decided to change the body. Then the man saw in front of him a terrible monster. Hajnano instantly died. The creature tried to move his new body. At that time, the protagonist was late for school. Pravak did not wake up the guy, as he was worried about his health. At that time, the protagonist wondered about the girl's words, and Prak said that there was a possibility that the protagonist's mind had changed, and maybe the girl sensed something inhuman inside the guy. The guy seemed worried about this. He convinced himself that he hadn't changed, but memories came to mind in which people thought he had changed. Suddenly, the guy saw a bag, and later noticed his classmate being beaten up by a mob of guys. He tried to stop them, and the girl who was with him didn't realize why the hero was getting into it. At that time, one of the bullies came up and hit the guy hard. They decided to stop beating the hero, as they didn't need him. At that time, he remembered how Prak did not understand why people try to help each other. The hero shouted again that the guy should stop, and then said that it's not fair to attack the crowd. Their head came up to Izumi and began to beat him seriously. The guy was on the ground, and the enemy was not going to stop. The girl tried to stop her friend, and she succeeded. She said that the hero would not get into a fight, but looking into his eyes, she saw something creepy and was scared. The girl didn't understand who the hero was. At that time, her friends called her and they left. At that time, the hero was worried about his classmate. He said that they help each other, and this is what distinguishes them from animals. The girls could not understand why he had bruises. Other guys thanked the protagonist and then promised to help if something happens. Suddenly, a girl took a picture of the protagonist and started asking the guy why he was fighting. The girl thought that the protagonist didn't have any weirdness. At that time, the girl kept harassing the guy, and the head of the gang was also there. After which the hero began to beat, and his girlfriend began to take away to another place. The guys grabbed the girl, and the head of the gang said that the hero could go home. He attacked the hero, and then ordered him to leave. He called Izumi a real weakling. At that time, Pravik wanted to intervene. The hero tried to attack, but the enemy won easily. Pravik talked about how the hero was the weakest of all the people here. The hero continued the battle in which he was being beaten. He tried to counterattack, but he kept getting beaten the same way. The enemy didn't understand why the hero didn't run away. At that time, the hero threatened the enemy, and Prak decided to intervene, and now Izumi had to restrain Prak as well. The girl intervened, and other kids from the school came to save the hero. The enemy said that they will not be helped by quantity, and then the fight began. At that time, on the road, monster could not control the body. It was incredibly hard for him, as the body of the other sex was not suitable for him. He wanted to find a woman and move into her body. The hero was walking home with the girl, and she was taking care of her boyfriend. He put on his glasses and then asked if he was strange. The girl said that he is definitely not like everyone else, because he is the coolest. She thought that a normal person would not go to such a feat after a while. The hero said that he has no parents and offered the girl to get behind, but she decided to leave. Prak was upset that he will not see sex. At that time, a girl came up who wriggled for the guys and offered the hero to live amicably. She seemed to feel something in the hero's hand, after which the guy immediately ran home. Pravik warned the hero to be careful, because she can feel the waves that emit parasites. The hero was on the balcony. At that time by the sea, the guy's parents were looking at the beautiful views and talking among themselves. They wished the guy was here too. A moment later, a monster appeared and instantly cut off the mom's head. At that time, the ruler was talking about the hero's mom making great food. Suddenly, he got a call in which the father started talking about the hero's mom being killed by the monster. The hero couldn't hear everything, just couldn't understand what kind of monster his father saw. The guy imagined his parents, who said that they would be calmer now. Then he imagined a horrible picture of his parents dead. The boy woke up and was very worried about his parents, while the ruler asked the boy to calm down. He thought about his parents seeing one of the enemies. Suddenly Pravik sensed the enemy. He was approaching them. The hero started accusing Pravik of being at fault. He started shouting and didn't listen to Pravik at all. The hero was mad with anger and was going to kill the enemy because he hated vermin. Suddenly the door to the house opened, and the hero was very worried. In front of him, he saw his own mother and immediately calmed down. But his mother did not answer at all. Pravik tried to bring the guy to his senses, but the hero did not listen at all. Preen continued to talk to the enemy as his mother, and did not listen to Pravik at all. At that time, the enemy said that it was necessary to kill the man who survived. The enemy talked about the poor right hand. At that time, the guy kept convincing himself that it was his mom. He threatened Pravik with a knife and talked to his mom. Then he remembered the scar and said he wanted to ask forgiveness for it every time. Suddenly, the guy's heart was pierced through, and the last thing he saw in front of his eyes was his mom's scar. Guys, before I continue, I want to thank you for watching my videos. It takes a lot of effort to make even one video like this, and I hope it's not for nothing and you enjoy it. Please write about the anime that you would like to see retold in the comments, and I will be sure to do. Thank you all, and we continue. The enemy returned to his original form. At that time, the guy's soulless body fell to the floor. He was lying on the ground and his body was losing blood. The enemy realized that the hero has no way to live and ordered the loser to accept his fate. At that time, Pravik realized that such a wound could not be repaired. He decided to merge with the heart of the protagonist, then close the wound. He began to move into the heart of the protagonist. While the guy was just lying on the floor, his heart began to beat and he began to breathe. It worked, but the organism itself will not recover. For this reason, Pravik decided to try to restore the body of the hero. The girls were talking about the fact that the guy didn't come to school. It had been a few days. They were worried and decided to go to him. They also found out that the girl knows where Izumi lives. After that, even the guys were talking about Izumi going out with the girl. At that time, Prak was looking for products that were necessary for the recovery of the body and tried to save the guy. The phone rang, and the hero was finally able to open his eyes. He looked absolutely horrible, and although he had no strength at all, he was able to understand. The guy put on glasses, but he began to see badly. But without glasses, vision was just fine. He began to vomit, and then looked in the mirror and saw blood in the heart area. When he looked at his body, he saw a huge scar. He was worried about it, and assumed that it was the ruler tried. The hero remembered his mother, and then fell into a terrible state. Suddenly the call sounded again. He picked up the phone, then heard a voice from the hospital. It turned out his father was in the hospital. He managed to survive. The hero decided to immediately go to his father. At the door was his girlfriend, who was very worried about the guy. She kept talking, and on the face of the hero was no face at all. He said that his father was wounded, and Promamu did not say a word, just threw his saddened look and then left. The girl was very worried about the guy. She asked if he would come back. At that time, the hero gave himself a promise that he would definitely kill the monster that settled in the body of his mother. He sailed on the sea and thought about the fact that the enemy realizes that the father saw the process of capture. The enemy wanted to finish the father of the hero. That's why he came home. The hero realized that the enemy will definitely try to kill the father in the hospital. The girl turned to the hero. She felt sorry for him, as he looked very sad. He asked if she knew where the hospital was, and and she said she did. At that time, the man told the investigators that his wife had been killed, and they said that the wife was still alive. They said that she had returned to the hotel, after which she said that the man had left on urgent business, and that she had left in the morning. The man claimed that it was definitely not her. The doctor said that the man's mind was mixed up with the nightmares he had seen in his dreams, and he claimed that it was all real. At that time, the hero reached the hospital and went to his father's room. The father said that he made his son worried. The hero's heart was very hurt for his mother. At that time, his father started talking about how the hero's mom was missing. Izumi began to ask about the monster, and his father said that it was just a nightmare. At that time, the hero did not want to hear such an excuse. The guy said that the monster killed his mother. The father began to say that this could not be true, then apologized for lying to the guy. He asked the hero to take a walk around the neighborhood and then go home. The hero wanted to say that it was all true, but the father was not ready to accept the truth. The hero strongly wanted to tell his father about the parasites, but he could not do it. After the guy gave his father some clothes, then told him that he would spend the night with his father. In the end, the hero stood in place and thought about telling his father the truth. Heroid minded that he wanted revenge. Then at the counter he was told that the hotel is 300 meters from the hospital. Greyoi understood that the ruler will not be able to read the threat. He went to the closest hotel and was met there by a girl he already knew. He was near the hospital and thought about the fact that his mother had been killed in front of his father. He wanted to tell his father the truth and avenge his mother. Suddenly he realized that his hearing had become very acute. Pravik spoke before the hero, then told him that the guy feels affection for his relatives, but Pravik himself he hates. He was worried that they could become enemies. He also said that now the body of the hero will change, but Pravik got a weakness, namely that he will fall asleep for 4 hours. But before he always woke up, but now he will not even wake up when there will be an enemy. He explained that it would be the end of them if the enemy came when Pravik was asleep. Pravik kept silent as he knew the hero was angry with him. Pravik decided that keeping the hero in the dark was even more dangerous, so he told him. And the hero said that he could not call Pravik an enemy, while the parasite explained that if the hero died, he would die too. In the morning, the girl brought the hero back and said that he started to look much better. At that time, he brought the newspaper to his father, and he was happy that he could read the news. The father asked how his son was feeling, and he said he was fine. The hero was behind the hospital and thought about where the enemy could attack from. He realized that now he will definitely kill the enemy. Suddenly came a girl, and she sat down to the hero and they began to talk. She asked if he had a girlfriend, while the ruler told about the fact that near a colleague, and the hero instantly ran in that direction. The girl decided to run after the guy, because he is going to the dead end, but Shiroi was incredibly fast. He ran at great speed. At that time, Prak asked if the hero was ready to kill, and he said that he was. The girl came up, after which she spoke of what she had warned. The hero didn't wait and jumped right on that huge wall. Then he started running towards the direction where he saw the parasite. He was incredibly close and also very angry. Suddenly, he saw a fat man in front of him who didn't look dangerous at all. Pravik got ready to fight, but the fat man was scared. Then Pravik told him that the fat man's brain was not invaded. Then the fat man's jaw started talking. It turned out that they had a similar situation. In the past, he got married, but after a year his wife left him. After that, he came to the sea and was going to kill himself. But he lacked determination and stayed sitting and looking at the beautiful views. At that time, a parasite hatched from an egg and headed towards the guy. He became afraid of this creature, and it stabbed into the guy's neck, causing him to fall into the water. The parasite began to tell that at first it wanted to get to the brain, but later realized that soon the host organism was dying, and after it merged with the jaw, it was able to save the organism. The guy asked for a chance to say something. The parasite complained that it was harder for him to speak on his chin. The hero listened about the guy was glad the guy had the same situation. The hero introduced himself and introduced the ruler, after which they also introduced themselves by the way the creature's name was Parasite. The fat man sympathized with the hero's situation. He cried a lot, while the parasites said that they did not understand these emotions. They said that Pravik spoke beautifully. It was because Pravik was trained by smart books, while the parasite was trained by TV. The fat man promised to help if he noticed the enemy. Later in the night, the Pravik woke up the hero, after which he remembered how the hero was able to run with great speed and jumped. The parasite showed his division. Then explain the more he will divide, the more stupid the copy will be. Prak also said that there are places where even the smallest copies can survive. He assumed that when he merged with the heart, he ordered all the copies to return to the right hand. But here's the problem. Because the heart was pumping blood, a lot of copies got into the blood. The hero was very disturbed by such words. At that time, the ruler said that he couldn't contact the small copies. The hero asked if the copies of Prakuk had gotten into his brain. Prakuk wanted to say that they would not do any harm, while the hero thought that although his heart was clenched from the pain, he did not cry at all. Later, the hero was thinking that he had a hole in his heart. The girl was hiding behind the guy, but he easily noticed her, then asked if he looked like a human. She said that he did. The girl did not understand why the guy was so sad. She thought that he always had such a look as if he was always ready to cry. After these words, the girl ran away. At that time, the fat guy called the hero and told him that he felt a parasite. This parasite was approaching the fat man. The hero said that if the enemy realizes that the guy's brain is not captured, he is finished. The fat man started to run towards the protagonist, while Izumi was also approaching his friend at an incredible speed. At that time, the parasite was talking about how they were finished. After he realized that the fat man could no longer run, they changed tactics. At that time, Prak decided to go to sleep, and before he passed out, he decided to give the hero a gift for the battle, namely a sword hand. The fat man arrived at the cliff, and the girl had already appeared near him. The enemy was angry as the Osabi that failed to absorb the brain hindrance. The enemy transformed, after which the hero heard the sounds of blows, and yes, the Rebatas were fighting among themselves. The enemy was incredibly angry, as the human parasite was like a balancer. They were about to end the battle, and the fat man's body was pierced and he rolled down the cliff. The enemy thought it was easiest to attack the heart. At the time, the parasite was distraught at his death. Suddenly, a hero arrived at the site. The monster couldn't believe what he was seeing, as the hero managed to survive with a hole in his heart. The hero was sallied upon the enemy, who mimicked his mother. The enemy went into an attack state, after which the hero realized that Yuta was most likely dead. The enemy thought that the man could not do anything, but the hero was able to dodge the enemy's attacks. The enemy continued to attack, and the hero saw literally every movement of the enemy. The hero could react to the enemy's attacks, and he saw the body of his friend. Izumi went to attack, and the monster could not believe that the man was able to hurt him. At that time, the hero was contemplating that he would destroy the creature. It seemed that the guy managed to dominate the battle. The enemy thought that in front of him is definitely not a man, but some monster. Before the decisive blow, the hero stopped, which gave the enemy the opportunity to attack. The hero was in a bad position, as suddenly the enemy's head flew off his shoulders. It turned out to be a fat man with his parasite. The enemy started talking about how the fat man couldn't survive. It turned out that the parasite had moved all the important organs before the blow. Izumi stood and thought about the fact that finally his mom could finally sleep peacefully. After he went home, the girl started talking to him. She said that the guy would definitely come again. She really wanted to see the main character again. It was hard for her to say goodbye to the always gloomy handsome guy. The father started to tell the hero that their mother loved the protagonist, and he loved his son. The guy asked about the nightmare to the man, namely whether the girl suffered, and he explained that she did not even have time to react. Now the hero was calm, after which he lost consciousness. Later he returned to the city, and the girl noticed the girl who had already run up to Izumi, who in such a short period of time incredibly transformed. At that time, the other monsters were discussing the hero and saying that he should be let go and not touched. The girl thought that the boy would be very useful for their species. At that time, the girl was walking down the street and Mizo said hello to her. He didn't understand why she was thinking about that weakling. The guy couldn't understand why the girl was acting like that, which made him angry. At that time, the Rebata noticed the guy. He asked about Izumi. The hero was just walking. Then he said hello to the bully. In the end, the hero was taken to a deserted place. The enemy thought that the hero was hanging out with Kana. At that time, Izumi didn't care at all and was about to leave. Suddenly, the enemy started to attack and the hero easily disarmed him. Then the enemy pounced with a hail of blows, and Izumi managed to easily win the battle. The hero left the shoes of the enemy, after which he looked at him with a creepy look. The hero and his girlfriend were walking around the city. She was worried about the guy as he had become a bit different. He said that while his father was in the hospital, he was able to skip school. The girl asked again if Izumi was the same hero she knew. The guy started to calm the girl down and then asked if she was the same girl he knew. At that time, the girl felt the main character. She was happy that she could predict the guy's whereabouts. But when she saw the girl next to him, she was upset. At that time, the father was drinking at home, after which the hero asked the man to drink less. The guy started talking about the fact that they should hire a housekeeper, after which the father got angry and said that if the son wants it, then let him hire a housekeeper. At that time, the protagonist thought about the fact that he could not spare tears. He thought that he began to lose something that made him human. The next day they met the girl. Since then the protagonist started to hear, see, and feel much easier. Izumi asked the girl to go without him. He then ran as he heard a call for help. It turned out there was a dead puppy with only 10 minutes to live. The hero held the dead animal, and it was noticed by the girl, after which they were already sitting together. The girl was already afraid because she thought that the hero had changed, but he came back from the trip more rough, although the girl was not sure yet. At that time, the hero said that the puppy had died, after which they started walking and the guy threw the corpse in the trash. The girl was talking about how that wasn't right, and the guy didn't understand why the girl was thinking about where his corpse was. The girl thought the hero had changed too much, whereupon she started running away, and the hero started looking at the garbage can, after which he thought deeply about the fact that he had changed. Pravik said that Izumi's words were right, but he also said that the hero's character had become more like Pravik. After Izumi buried the animal, because now when the body decayed the tree would get fertilizer, the guy had to do so immediately. He waited for the girl, but she ran away as soon as she saw him. He thought that today was not the time. Suddenly there was a colleague nearby, and the hero began to walk around. Pravik offered to meet the enemy, then told that the other parasite is wary but not hostile. Suddenly, behind Izumi's back was a strange guy who said that he imagined the hero completely different. A classmate appeared, who instantly received a slap in the face from the newcomer. Hideo said that he decided to make friends with the hero and his parasite. Then he asked where the class he needed was, and he was looking forward to physical education, as it was there that their classes would be practicing together. The hero was running and thinking that he should try not to set a world record. At that time, the girls were discussing the newcomer. One of the girls thought that the newcomer was handsome. Afterwards, the girls said that before, they were all pining for Izumi, but now he was with Satomi, so they should look for another option. The parasite was playing with a ball, and the hero asked why he came and assumed that the opponent wanted to kill him. He said that he did not. Izumi thought that the guy was sent by Tamiya, and he said that he wasn't going to harm anyone, and then he said that he had never eaten a human, and then he said that they were looking for a way to coexist with humans. Praviku was incredibly interested. Then he said goodbye to the parasite and they left together with the hero. Izumi did not understand why they left so quickly. At the time, Pravik said that the enemy would definitely not know about their weakness. The girl noticed the protagonist. At that time, the girl thought that she had acted too rashly. The hero thought that the parasite should not be trusted. They have no feelings. The hero was covered with rage. Then he looked at the girl with a crazy look and she was scared. At that time, the other girl thought she had superpowers. She thought she could feel her other half. But this time she didn't feel Izumi at all, and the guy started asking the girl questions and took her away. Izumi ran towards the girl and literally saved her. The hero explained that if his acquaintances get hurt, the parasite will suffer. The enemy noticed that the waves of the right were quite weak. The girl asked to escort her to the station, and it was noticed by the protagonist's girlfriend. It was a very dirty move, guys. They moved, after which the hero talked about how the girl's abilities are not good since she senses scary guys, and the guy asked to never go near those she senses. At that time, the parasite changed his face. He approached the beautiful girl and offered to take her to another place. At that time at home, the father was drinking again, and he could not understand when the hero became so strong. He thought that his son was made of steel, after which he apologized. A girl classmate was drawing something. It turned out to be the same newfangled parasite that was eating a man right now. On the street, the girl met the parasite again. After that, she became numb and started to run away. She met her acquaintance who started to approach the parasite. At that time, a passing girl noticed the newcomer, and the guys went to the toilet where the man was easily defeated. The parasite promised to kill the man if he climbs again. At that time, the parasite noticed the girl, after which she became embarrassed. In the past, people gathered Aklo the results of the exams, after which the girl approached the Izumi, after which they started talking awkwardly. The guy couldn't notice her in the same room. She hoped they would be in the same class. In the present, the guy was standing and waxing nostalgic as suddenly his girlfriend walked just past. At that time, the enemy could not understand why the guy's hand emitted weak waves. The enemy emitted the desire to kill the hero, but he did not react in any way that remembered the parasite. The girls were discussing how handsome the new guy was. They thought he was the most handsome guy in the school. The girl thought that the guy's face was fake. At that time, the father was talking to the investigators who asked him not to tell about his wife's death. The main character arrived at the scene, said hello, and left. It turned out that the government already knew about the existence of parasites. The man said that such monsters in Japan, a huge number of monsters, then drew something, and the father confirmed that the drawing accurately conveys the shape of the monster. At that time, the parasites were discussing the fact that rumors began to appear around them. They believed that at this rate they would be exterminated. At that time, the man was amused by the fact that such issues only a girl cares about. He believed that the earth was inhabited by a virus called man, and they needed to exterminate this virus. The father began to tell his son that there were thousands of creatures roaming Japan. The father spoke, and Izumi just nodded in response, saying nothing. The boy didn't say anything, and towards the end, his father told him about his mother's death. At that time, there was a strange program on TV, and the girl saw a strange drawing on the table. She didn't understand what kind of material it was. The guy didn't want to tell. She asked him to evaluate the work, after which he said it was not bad, then called her talented. She asked the man if he could tell about the person in the portrait, but he said it was impossible. The girl noticed the newcomer and realized that he was watching someone. A ball hit him on the head and there was a dent, but he didn't let it show and recovered instantly. The girl was incredibly scared. Izumi thought about making up with the girl. She tried to ignore him, but he spoke. He talked about how the girl to him molested himself. At that time, Pravik said that the parasite drains blood thirst. It turned out that the gang came to him. The hero did not know what to do and shouted, then ran. The girl could not understand at all what was happening. At that time, the gang of men were confident in themselves. At that time, the parasite ordered the guys to attack all together. He realized that they were about to be interrupted, so he asked them to hurry up. Izumi arrived on the spot. At that time, the enemy could not believe in the physical capabilities of the hero. The enemy said that he didn't want to fight, he was forced. The hero said that he would deal with it himself. The man started yelling. At that time, the men switched to Izumi. He ordered the shit to be quiet, then ordered him to leave and not to harass the new guy anymore. The hero realized who was in charge, and Yano went straight to him and attacked him, but it was incredibly easy for the hero. Then he decided to put a little strength, and the head ordered his men to leave. He realized that if there was a fight, they would be finished. At that time, the girl was waiting for the hero with his briefcase. She handed over his briefcase, and the guy blagshot the girl, then pulled her towards him. The parasite was nearby and was wondering what the hero did to people. Izumi ordered him to leave, but because of the Ninu, he hurt the girl. The hero started yelling about the new guy being a real freak. The girl was very worried about the guy. She said that before, the guy would not shout in the street. He said that he did not want to behave like that. Izumi didn't want to change. At that time, the girl couldn't understand why he had changed. When asked if he was still the same Izumi, he yelled that she was whining, and then she started to walk away. Later, the hero thought it was all the fault of the hole in his chest, while Prakik said that he was much better now. Izumi was surprised that the ruler wanted to cheer him up. At that time, the girl was thinking about what she saw. At that time, the new guy went into the restroom and immediately came out only in different clothes. She continued to follow him, and the guy kept walking until he went into an alley where he changed his face, and the girl saw it. She was incredibly scared. Already at home, she didn't understand how it was possible. Then she remembered her brother's drawings. She went to him and asked him about the monsters. He said that they themselves do not know everything. Then the girl suggested that the monsters can change their heads. At that time, the man said that the girl was unlikely to meet such a one. She decided not to tell him that she had met such a one. She thought that the new guy was not like that. The girl went into an empty classroom and started pulling out items that could be used for self-defense, and eventually pulled out a bottle of liquid. The newcomer arrived in the classroom, and the girl started talking. She talked about how she always watched the guy and learned his secret. She kept talking while the parasite became very creepy. The girl asked the guy to leave and stop. He asked who the girl had told, and she couldn't believe the guy was killing people. That's when the ruler felt the urge to kill. The parasite became quite creepy. Then his head began to transform, which greatly frightened the girl, and the protagonist stood in the middle of the class and screamed. The hero began to ask the whole class about where the enemy is, and then began to silently leave, and did not listen to what the teacher said to him. The girl was terrified. While the enemy ordered her not to move, she slipped, then was able to save himself from the blow. He picked up a bottle and threw it directly at the monster, after which it began to scream in pain, because the bottle was acid. The girl climbed out of the window. She was trying to hide from the monster who had already found her, so she had to jump from the window. At that time, the parasite couldn't transform back and felt terrible. At that time, the protagonist moved towards the enemy. Pravik didn't understand what was happening with the waves of the parasite. At that time, the guys told the teacher about what they saw, and he went to check what was happening there. At that time, the monster couldn't make a human face as his head was still in the same state. The mortal cells didn't let him transform. He acted to fly and then instantly killed several people. Pravik told the hero about the deaths. The teachers saw the guy who was terrified. After they saw the corpses, they were horrified. Suddenly, the enemy briefly sneezed, then began to move into the classroom of the protagonist. People piled up. Then Pravik suggested to go outside. School children began to gather outside. At that time, the teacher was incredibly frightened. Everyone sent home, after which it turned out that the hero's girlfriend's class was still in school. He broke into the school and asked the teacher where the enemy was. He went to Murano's class and heard people screaming. Then the whole class except for the hero girl left the school. He thought about the fact that their last conversation was quite sad, after which the guy began to run with all his might to the second floor, where in front of him, he saw a huge number of corpses of people and wailed with emotion. He was in a terrible state. His heart was literally splitting apart. The hero remembered the girl and his father, who said that he had changed. The guy managed to calm down. Then he promised himself to protect the Murano and kill the parasite. He was walking halfway through the blood and noticed the girl. After he turned her body over, he was glad it wasn't his girlfriend. The enemy was on their floor, and the hero focused and was able to hear all the people on the floor. The guy headed towards the school kids and saw his girlfriend, who was alive. She immediately hugged her boyfriend and cried, after which the hero calmed her down and promised that everything would be fine. The girl could not get off her feet, after which the hero began to say that they should leave. The guys were very scared and they were not going to go. They thought the hero was not human. Then they started to run away, and they died instantly. The girl was able to hug the hero, and he took her in his arms. Then he ran forward, while the enemy was approaching. The hero thought that his enemy was completely crazy. Then he jumped down and started carrying the girl. He jumped like a superhero. After they managed to retreat, he told the girl to calm down. Then she started crying into the guy's shoulder. At that time, police and ambulance arrived on the spot and started doing their job. The hero left the girl to the ambulance and headed inside the building. At that time, the police did not let Izumi pass. He thought he was guilty of what was happening, as they could have stopped the monster before this horror. At that time, a policeman spotted the monster, and it began to instantly exterminate the lawkeepers. The policeman managed to get into the body of the monster. Pravik said that in order to kill this parasite, you have to stop its heart or cut off its head. Although if it loses blood, it will also die. The hero asked if this parasite's life was a mistake. Izumi grabbed a stone. Pravik warned that they shouldn't get close. The hero climbed to the roof, then began to wait. The enemy also climbed up. The hero took the stone in his right hand, then swung and threw it with great force, thanks to which he managed to pierce the heart of the parasite, and he was only able to see Izumi before his death. The police swept up to the scene, but all they saw was the corpse of the monster. The news said that a drug-addicted high school student had killed 18 people. At that time, the hero did not understand why people will not show the body of the monster. Prak explained that if such a show to all people, there will be a fuss. At the time, the hero thought about helping the police. Pravik thought that people cannot be trusted. Even if people know that there are parasites among them, they can change their appearance. Pravik said that he felt nothing for his fellow humans, after which Izumi seemed to think about it. At the time, The government was discussing what to do about the monsters. They were also talking about using the population to detect parasites. Dokuter began to talk about how the parasite takes control of the body and uses the body with great productivity. The scientist also talked about how they were like solid muscles, and he talked a lot about the intricacies of their bodies. After they calmed him down, he talked about the fact that as soon as there were not enough cells in the body, the parasite would begin to dry up, and he also said that if you tear off a monster's hair, it would move on its own. They realized that it was now possible to identify organisms with the virus. Before saying goodbye, they decided to pluck a hair from each of them. As time passed and the school started working again, the hero said hello to the girl and asked if she was feeling better. She apologized for not answering the message, and the hero offered to continue walking. They continued walking, after which the guy kept talking to the girl, who thanked the hero for his help. He said that the girl was thinking about something else. The guy explained his jump with a surge of adrenaline, and the girl again thanked her savior. The hero, on the other hand, saw a new fashion, namely pulling out hair when meeting. Late in the evening, the girl talked about getting drunk and stopped a strange guy. She praised the man, then showed him the new fashion, but the guy's hair started to move by itself and then wilted. The man had to kill the girl. At that time, another girl saw the guy, and he confessed that the hair bundle gave him away. The girl had to eat the meat that was soaked in alcohol. At that time, the girl imagined how she was picking beautiful flowers, as suddenly everything around her changed and there were creepy monsters from which she tried to escape. When everything was going to end badly, there was a prince on a white horse who drew his sword and went to the girl and saved her from those monsters. She admired her savior, after which the hero turned the sword back into his hand, and between them began the same. And the girl thanked her beloved, whereupon she woke up and was embarrassed by such a dream. At that time, she was reading the news on the street, after which she remembered the hero's words about scary guys. She noticed Izumi and tried to tear out his hair, but he said that it was not nice to tear it without asking, but still allowed it, and the hair was normal. The girl kept the guy's hair and then ran to him. She remembered that the hero had warned about Shimada. She thought he knew who he was. Izumi thought about telling the girl about the ruler, but he realized that it would end badly. The hero told the girl that she should never come close, as she might not meet the hero but some monster. She said that if she felt someone, she would pull her hair out. The hero was instantly afraid for the girl, and then she confessed that it felt good to be worried about her. Izumi ran away from the girl. At that time, his girlfriend saw this picture and said hello. Izumi could not talk to that girl, because if she continued like that, she would meet a monster. At that time, the girl started to talk about Izumi. The girl asked if the red-haired girl loved Izumi, and she told him that the guy saved her from death. The girl thought she was dreaming because she dreamed about it. At that time, the girl said that the guy hadn't changed, and there was always something about him. She thought that she still had a chance. At that time, the monster said that 10 minutes was enough for him. The man was smoking, then the monster approached, and the opponent got angry. He tried to attack, but the monster finished him off instantly. He stormed into the Yakuza and started killing everyone in a row. People were dying one by one. Then the others prepared to fight, but the man easily dispatched each of them. People could not do anything against such a monster. The humans continued to attack, but the parasite easily eliminated them. One of the people managed to wound the parasite, but it easily killed him. Later, the parasite was wounded by a shot, and the remaining blow the parasite missed on the head, and then decided to instantly kill all the people. People were discussing the fact that there was a corpse on the street. Then the parasite came out of the building. People started to chase the monster, but he disappeared from sight. One of the people was instantly stolen by the parasite, and the others didn't even notice. The monster returned to the car in a new form, and then they drove on. At the time, the school children were discussing the massacre at the Yakuza headquarters, and the hero realized that it was probably a parasite. The news was saying that a portrait of the perpetrator would soon be released. The monsters began to talk about the man's full-blown rage. Later, the hero met his girlfriend, after which they started laughing. They decided to go to the movies. They had a great time together, after which the girl confessed that she still dreams about that day. The guy said that he still does not remember dreams. The girl remembered every dream perfectly. The hero began to say that people are no different from a herd of cows, because they eat everyday creatures. The girl thought that the hero had changed under some influence. The guy got upset, and the girl remembered the day when the guy left. She thought about the fact that he left then and did not come back. He stopped the conversation and they went further. They saw a cute puppy. After that, an adult dog came running up to them, who protected her child. They sat on a bench and discussed the weather. At that time, the child was crying and asked his mother to wait. He threw a tantrum, after which he started calling his mother bad and saying that he hated his mother. He asked that his mother would die, after which the hero had a heart attack and the mother could not hit her son. The guy told the girl that there was a hole in his chest. Then he said he just felt a little sick. The hero thought about the fact that he has a pain that tears him apart. He felt perfectly well that part of his heart was filled with a ruler, which has no feelings. He still loved the girl. Then he thought that when he was well with the girl, he wished that the ruler would never wake up again. At that time, another girl saw them kissing and started to run away. At that time, the girl was worried about Izumi in front of her. She was very worried. At that time, the girl was sitting on her phone and was upset because the hero was in love with someone else. She started calling someone. Pravik did not understand why the guy was going to the meeting, and he just could not refuse. Suddenly, Pravik felt a colleague, and not just one, but 5. It turned out there was some kind of action. It seemed they were gathering people and trying to tell them something. These creatures were trying to preach that they should give up all benefits for the sake of the planet Earth. At that time, one of the parasites was able to notice the protagonist, after which the ruler began to say that they should leave. The hero met a girl, after which the hero was worried that there were so many parasites around. The girl had a dream where the jam grabbed her in his arms, and they started clasping. The girl woke up and got embarrassed. At that time, Pravik said that now there is a parasite politician. Pravik also said that they act together. They thought that by studying politics, the parasite will probably make a great politician. He also thought that the parasite can create a shelter and safe food for their fellows. In the past, the hero led away from this place, and the girl said that she came because she felt the guy. She wondered, for she had sensed 5 parasites while Pravik had sensed 8. Pravik looked at the hero very closely and then decided to ask what the guy was thinking about. Pravik said that it was better for the hero to mind his own business. At that time, the guy just wanted to know the number of parasites in the city. Pravik was also interested to know how many parasites. Suddenly, the girl found Izumi, and the guy decided to talk to her. He asked if the girl sensed someone. He asked the girl not to look for such people. After that, the guy came, and he asked the hero to leave, and he did as he was asked. The guy started talking to the girl, and the hero was able to leave. Izumi wanted to talk to the girl. At that time, Pravik was talking about how they keep evolving, but they don't feel emotions. So Pravik will kill anyone who finds out. Pravik had no emotions. At that time, the girl at home was thinking about what the guy wanted to talk about. Then she felt someone nearby and ran towards that direction. She saw a strange girl there and started running away. Izumi texted her, and they met at an abandoned building, after which the hero hit the wall. This way he checked if the ruler was asleep. Izumi told the girl everything. He also told her that his case was special. The girl thought that the conversation would be more interesting. The hero realized that the girl didn't believe him, while she kept saying that it wasn't true, and if he just wanted her to leave, he should have just said so. The girl thought that the guy was just trying to blow her off, but it turned out that the girl could now tell the main character from the others, and promised that she wouldn't confuse the character with anyone else. She thought it was really cool. She asked the guy to show his right hand in action once, because otherwise she wouldn't believe him. At that time at home, he realized that the parasite became a politician. The hero wondered whether the girl was stealing to him. Afterwards, he took a walk with his girlfriend. Nearby was the one that felt him, and she did not understand why the hero does not feel her in return. She believed that they were bound by fate itself. She was hoping to the last that the hero will turn around and feel her in return, because of which she began to emit waves. The guy came up to the girl. He talked about how the girl had changed a lot, and then said that Izumi was no match for her, and the girl yelled at the man and said that she didn't want to see him anymore. The guy was hurt to hear this. At that time, the girl apologized and said that she couldn't help it. Pravik started talking to the hero. He was worried about the hero going against Pravik. Pravik told that the girl could now honk on her own, just like vermin. Now the hero was worried a lot about her life. Pravik thought that the girl could only honk when she was concentrating. The hero thanked Pravik and then told him that he had told the girl everything and the girl didn't believe him. He started talking to Pravik about showing Pravik. The hero kept talking and Pravik agreed to meet the girl. But the guy had a date, which he safely refused. At the time, The girl was at the same abandoned house. At that time, the hero talked to the ruler, and the deal was confirmed. The hero called the girl and asked her to change the meeting place and then disappeared. The hero started to leave, and Pravik gave him instructions on how to behave. At that time, the girl was determined to prove to the hero that she would find him anywhere. She thought that this was the only way the hero would reciprocate. Izumi stood still, and the parasites decided to pass by. The hero tried to call the girl, but she left her phone. The girl started running on her feelings. The hero asked if the ruler could find the girl. At that time, she was already there. She was walking towards the abandoned house. At that time, the ruler sensed a fellow ruler. The girl was walking through the abandonment saying that she could sense Izumi anywhere, but all she found was a scary monster that looked at the girl, and she started to run away even though her arm was already wounded. The enemy was approaching the girl. She ran out and the hero appeared. Though he was too late and the girl's body was pierced through by the monster. The hero lost another human. The hero ordered the ruler to stand on defense. Then he personally ripped out the heart of the enemy and killed him instantly. The girl was sure to die and the guy took her in his arms. She knew Izumi was coming. She remembered her dream. Then the hero asked her not to die. At that time, the girl said with her last strength that the dream was such a dream that made her embarrassed. At that time, the hero noticed the writing on the wall. That's how the girl who dreamed of being together with the hero died. Investigators did not understand why the guy was so calm. Although he found the girl's body, the man thought that the guy was very tired. They also couldn't understand who could finish the parasite, because a man can't do such a thing, and they couldn't understand why the parasite started fighting. At that time, Prak told the hero that he should not blame himself. At that time, the man who loved the girl was very angry and hit the hero. He was angry because Izumi couldn't protect the girl. The man attacked, but now the hero counterattacked and said that yes, he is heartless. The enemy started crying. At that time, the hero went on about his business. Now the hero realized that now he is a real heartless creature that feels absolutely nothing. The hero beat his head against a tree and Pravik stopped him, after which the hero thought that at least his blood was red. The class ended and a classmate started talking about the recent murder. Another girl started yelling at the class that Izumi was the person who found the corpse. At that time, the guy was leaving the school and remembering the dead girl. Suddenly, the girl asked if the hero was all right, and he said he was. While they were walking, the hero wanted to apologize for not coming to the date. The girl didn't seem to be offended by it, and they continued on their way. At that time, a strange man was watching the couple around the corner. At the time, the vermin were saying that their kin had died because he ate in the wrong places, and in the end he himself was guilty of dying. One of the enemies said that the parasite was probably not to blame. At that time, the girl began to talk about the main character, who coexists with his parasite. He was also the one who killed their kin. The girl explained that if Izumi was gone, it would slow down their development. At that time, the girl said that her son was like the other children, while the hired nanny took care of the child. The girl took the child by the head and ordered him to shut up. The woman was frightened by this behavior and quickly ran away. The child was sleeping sweetly, and the girl thought that she would soon begin her experiments. At that time, the detective reported to the girl that he did not notice anything strange, and the boy was living a normal life. The girl ordered to continue the surveillance. The girl thought that the man would have to find out something about the hero. At that time, Izumi was walking down the street and men started to come up to him, which in the end he easily defeated, and it was all caught on camera. The hero began to ask the name of the employer, and the guys could not give a normal answer as they saw the woman for the first time. The protagonist was greeted by an acquaintance who asked how the guy was doing on the personal front. He wasn't going to say anything. At that time, the friends started talking about the fact that the hero found the corpse of the girl. Everyone was gossiping about the fact that they had something. The hero said hello to the girls, after which the classmate quickly ran away. The girl remembered how the hero bravely and cold-bloodedly behaved during her rescue. The girl worried whether there was something between the hero and that girl. When the guy tried to touch her, she ran away. At that time, the detective could not believe that the hero so easily dealt with the bandits. The girl continued to ask about the hero, but the detective did not see anything strange. The girl was very interested in the changes in the guy's body. At that time, the protagonist could not understand what was happening in his relationship, after which he realized that it was because he was too calm. Pravik said that the hero was behaving very logically. The hero went to his father and told him he was going out. Izumi went outside while the detective continued his surveillance. The detective did not understand where they were going, while the protagonist went to the place where his girlfriend died. The detective did not stop his pursuit and did not understand why they arrived at the scene of the crime. The detective thought he would finally learn a secret. At the time, the ruler didn't understand what they forgot in that place. Izumi was worried that he had become too impenetrable, and then told him that he had always been worried before. The detective could not understand who the hero was talking to. At the time, the guy thought that the girl died because of him. Pravik persuaded the hero not to blame himself for all the sins. At that time, the guy wanted to be sad, but he could not do it at all. The investigator continued his film and noticed Pravik, who immediately went on the attack to kill the witness. The man was scared, and Izumi tried to stop the ruler from killing the man. But the ruler left the hero's body and attacked. The ruler was about to kill the man, but the area where he could move was limited. Pravik began to tell the hero about the trouble they were in, but the hero did not want to kill the man and tried to stop the parasite. Pravik was very stubborn, but the hero was even more persistent, and eventually Pravik got tired and began to lose consciousness. The hero wasn't going to kill people. When he came home, his father noticed that the guy came home very late. The next day, the guy left the house as usual. He looked at all the information on the camera. They realized that the man knew a lot about them, while they knew nothing about him. If he was working for the wrong people, they would be caught and sent for experiments. The girl wanted to say hello to the hero, but he ran past. It seemed the guy was very worried. He already imagined the reaction of people around him to his secret. Suddenly, the teacher was able to awaken the guy, after which the hero instantly began to leave the classroom. The guys did not understand his behavior. At that time, the main character was sitting in the room and already thought that he is definitely the end. Now they have in their enemies not only parasites, but also people. Izumi did not know what to do. He even had the idea to cut off his hand, but it was immediately clear that it was a stupid idea. The guy began to think about whether the man is following him and decided to listen to everything around him. Suddenly, he was able to notice a man who continued to follow, but as soon as he noticed the hero, the man began to run away, and the words of the hero did not affect him at all. The hero remembered the horrible events of the past and didn't understand why he got all this. He also noticed that he began to calm down even faster. The guy realized that there was no way back. He decided to meet his girlfriend and confessed that he wanted to talk about Tachikawa. The girl didn't understand why he called her, but the guy confessed that he just wanted to talk. The girl told the guy to concentrate, and then she decided to start on her own. She asked why the hero canceled the date to meet the girl. The hero was angry because he had a lot to say, while the girl kept saying that the hero was worried about something so much that the other thing didn't work for him. The girl was saying that Izumi is strong, but there are times when you can't look at him without crying. The girl asked him to tell her everything as it is, but the guy couldn't do it, which definitely made the girl angry, and she started to leave. The guy tried to convey that he could not tell anything, but Prak intervened. The hero, already with a calm look, said that nothing happened. The girl realized that the guy was lying, then said that his eyes were completely blank. The girl began to leave, while Izumi mentally said goodbye to his beloved. At that time at home, Pravik talked about starting to worry. At that time, the protagonist decided to tell Pravik that the man kept following them. Pravik thought that their enemies were definitely not the upper classes. The parasite realized that killing the enemy was not an option, then promised that they would not kill anyone for the time being. They decided to start spying on the man themselves. Izumi was visited by a fellow misfit. He decided to respond to help. The man's parasite said he was sick of helping all the time. They were talking on the roof. The parasite started talking amongst themselves, after which the ruler showed the man's face, and they ended up saying goodbye. So the man also started talking about how his parasite's name was now Chelsea, after the jaw. At that time, the girl was sitting in the cafe with the man. She advised him to go to the doctor. At that time, the man started to say that it was very scary. After he calmed down, he said that he could not understand what kind of creature it was. The girl started to say that they could stop the research. The girl did not leave his side and recommended that he stop the research. The man remembered that the girl was asking about the guy's hand. He thought that the girl knew something. She couldn't stand it and said goodbye to the man. The girl walked down the street and thought about the fact that people are of no use, and also thought about getting rid of the detective. in parallel, she made an incredibly scary face. Suddenly, she wanted to laugh for the first time. She started trying to imitate human laughter, but it was incredibly creepy. Even the baby who was sleeping started screaming and crying. The man returned home. He looked at his daughter, then began to continue drinking at home. The wife came home and joked about her husband's attraction to alcohol. The girl noticed that the man was worried and suggested that he was once again on a dangerous mission. The girl said that if the case was too difficult and dangerous, the man should back off. The girl persuaded him to back out, while the man thought about the fact that he would definitely continue the surveillance. At the time, the hero thought that parasites can sense each other, and so with the help of signals can communicate, not fully, but communicate. With the help of a friend, the hero could follow the man, and when he ran to him, he caught him, and then they went to the car, where the man didn't understand anything and was worried. The hero tried to calm the man down. After they arrived at the place, the hero decided to tell who they were. The man didn't understand what was wrong with the other man's face. At that time, Izumi started to tell everything since the ruler got into his arm. The detective listened to the story to the end, and then seemed to distrust the protagonist. He confessed that he had never believed in this nonsense before. The hero asked the man not to say anything. The man thought that if the hero did not care about the fate of mankind, he should give himself to the experiments. The parasites were very angry and said that the man should be killed. The parasite talked about how they have the same rights to life as humans. Pravik said that he sure didn't want them experimented on. Pravik said that his man was just an ordinary schoolboy who was suffering very badly. Pravik continued to press the man, at which time Izumi was surprised that Pravik acted like that. The hero said that he didn't want to kill the man. He realized that. After the man said that he couldn't tell about the man who hired him, Pravik assumed the man was hired by a parasite. The man heard the name Tamiya Ryoko, and he realized that the person he hired was exactly the same girl he had heard the story about from the main character. Suddenly, the same girl called the guy's phone in the evening. They did not understand why the girl wanted to meet with them. At that time in the university, they talked about the fact that there is altruism, and also talked about the fact that it is a strange phenomenon that allows people to help each other. The girl listened intently to this theory and seemed to try to snicker at every word the professor said. At that time, the baby she had taken with her was sleeping sweetly, and the other girls were admiring the baby. The girl thought about the words the man was saying and seemed to be trying to realize something. At that time, the main character was on the roof. The girl went to him and amazed her classmates by the way she carried the baby. The girl thanked the hero for coming to her. She talked about how she was one of the few who attended the university. The girl started asking a lot of questions about how the hero had changed so much. The guy was worried about the baby. The girl calmed him down. The girl suggested to Pravik to exchange information. At that time, Pravik asked about the man, and the girl said that a pathetic man is not a problem. About politicians, she said that now they are thinking about how to coexist with humans. The girl drew the parallel that pigs think all humans are monsters, while humans mash their delusion that they live in harmony with the whole world. At the time, the hero said he would never forgive the vermin for what they did. The child started crying, and the girl thought about the words mother and child. Then she asked if Izumi's mother had died, and his heart instantly started to ache. The girl started laughing at the top of her voice, and as she did, she also felt the anger of the protagonist. She started to defend herself with the child. At that time, other people arrived, and the girl started to leave the place with one word to calm the child. Izumi ran with all his might. He was incredibly angry. He was very angry at the way the girl treated her child. When the hero stopped, he was approached by the grandmother, who offered to see the fate of the guy. She started talking about how there was a huge wound on the guy's heart. Izumi asked how to heal the wound, and then the woman said that he should meet the one who inflicted the wound. At that time, the hero started laughing creepily, then made a creepy look and said that he killed that creature long ago. The girl was moving around with some guy, after which they separated. They were being followed, and eventually the man started to follow the man. He was surprised to see that the man had picked up a girl. He and the girl started to go into a strange place, and the guy kept following them. At this place, he started to look for the person he was following. Then he saw a horrible picture that made his face fill with terror. The enemy instantly grabbed the man and killed him just as quickly. At that time, Izumi was walking down the street and saw the same man, who began to ask for help. He told about a comrade who had gone to an underground parking lot and disappeared, after which they went to the place. They went inside, where at first glance everything was normal. At that time, the hero smelled a terrible odor that could only mean one thing. They could not get out. As the parasite was moving on the car, they started to go inside. The guy asked the girl to stop, after which the hero couldn't contain his anger. While the parasite did not understand why his congener was laundering, the man wanted to videotape the parasite eating. Izumi warned the girl that the guy wasn't human, but she reacted too late and was instantly killed. The enemy decided to attack. At that time, the Pravik decided to just fight. The hero started dodging the enemy's attacks, and the Pravik blocked what he could. They continued dodging. At that time, the Prakuk called Izumi a good horse, and they continued fighting, in which the Prakuk managed to defeat the enemy, and he fell to the ground. The man was shocked at what he had just seen. At that time, the enemy became furious, but was instantly cut in half by Pravik. The hero could not look at the corpse of the enemy. At that time, the man stopped filming. The hero headed towards the girl, then started to realize that he could have saved her. The guy was incredibly angry at himself. After all, he could have saved her. Pravik said that now they would be in danger because they had contacted the community of these parasites. The hero didn't seem to be listening to Pravik at all, while the detective was throwing up. Izumi thought that he had miscalculated, and they hurried to leave the place. In another place, they talked to a man. The hero said that he had met a detective who looked like a man and gave him advice. Pravik began to say that now they are definitely finished. The hero offered to show the video to the police, as he could no longer hide. Pravik started talking about his father getting hurt. At that time, the man realized that he didn't need it all anymore and threw away the memory card. The man started talking about how he was incredibly scared, then said that the hero was no longer human and that's why he wasn't so scared. The man was a normal person. He decided to stop fighting, and that's the reason why he decided to forget about everything. He also said that his wife and daughter were waiting for him at home. He apologized for what he had said to him in the past. In the evening, the hero thought over the words that the man said to him. He was well aware that now he was different from people and did not understand what to do. Pravik began to explain that Izumi should stop picking fights. Later, the hero stood near a wall and then began to think about all the times he was able to win. He decided that he could single-handedly kill all the parasites by luring them out one-on-one. The hero started moving, then thought that now his goal was to save as many people as possible. At that time, the girls started to talk about the fact that there were some problems in the girls' relationship. The friend joked, while the hero smiled and cheered. The girl started screaming and ran away. The guy, on the other hand, silently started looking in her direction and kept promising himself to do his best. At that time, the parasites were talking about exterminating Izumi. The girl tried her best to protect him. At that time, the other parasites decided to suspect the girl. Their head was saying that they really need to kill Izumi. The girl asked to have the body of the hero brought to her, as she wanted to dissect it badly. At that time, one of the parasites was playing the piano beautifully, and the other one started clapping for him as the tune was excellent. He also talked about the protagonist and that the strongest should fight him. At that time, the protagonist found himself in a strange place where he saw a strange monster. Pravik realized that the protagonist imagined it to be like that. Then Pravik held out a mirror and let the hero see his horrible reflection, from which he woke up terrified. The hero kept thinking about how to kill the vermin. He thought that the only way to persuade the Pravik was to force him to fight. Pravik stopped the hero and told him that one of the enemies was near. Then Pravik began to say that they are a victim, and the colleague is not one, and there are 3 of them. The hero started running. Then he explained that he wasn't going to fight at school. The girl called out to the guy, and he promised that no one would hurt the girl. She was worried about the hero. At that time, the guy started running. Pravik said that he had lost the parasites. Pravik said that they could only win if they could divide the enemy. Suddenly, Pravik fell asleep and left the protagonist alone. Izumi didn't understand how he could survive these 4 hours. He called a cab and drove out of town, then decided that he could get away, but suddenly he saw a cab, from which a strange man got out. The hero assumed it was one of the parasites. At that time, the enemy continued to approach. The enemy said that the hero is a real alarmist. Then he also noticed that the signal of the hero's right hand is weak. Izumi started to run away with all his might, and it seemed he could increase the distance. The hero got tired of running, and suddenly one car stopped, and the man offered a ride, and the hero didn't refuse. The hero was worried that the man might be a parasite, but he calmed himself down. Later, the guy got out of the car, and already Dumla that you can relax, and soon the ruler will return. As suddenly he noticed the car from which jumped the parasite, which fell because he could not keep his balance. The hero started shouting to the ruler, and he woke up. Suddenly the ruler told him that 3 parasites were in one body. At that time the enemy was struck by the protagonist's imagination. The parasite told that he was the 3rd. Suddenly the enemy attacked, then with a creepy look said that they will definitely win this battle. There was an explosion in one of the buildings, and the vermin discussed that the detective could be released. At that time, the man returned home, but to his regret at home he found an incredibly creepy picture which caused a surge of horror and pain on his face. At that time, the protagonist's opponent assumed that Izumi was fighting in a special way. He said that Pravik was a very good fighter, after which the man started laughing at the top of his voice and asked him to tell him the secret of Pravik. Pravik said that although the parasite tries to pretend to be human, it has no emotions. At that time, the enemy began to attack, while praising the protagonist. The number of enemy blades was much higher, and the hero had to retreat. The enemy followed him, but also the hero realized that the enemy is quite slow, but the main character's strength will soon run out. The situation was the same with Pravik. Pravik began to think about the fact that the enemy has 3 parasites. They were thinking about attacking the legs of the enemy. Pravik could not understand the location of the 3 parasites. Suddenly the car started to approach, and the enemy jumped off it but fell down again. The enemy decided to chop the body of the protagonist. At that time Pravik said that they will attack the legs of the enemy. At that time the enemy attacked, but the hero was able to repel the attack, and Pravik struck the leg, but it did not do any damage, and the enemy attacked. But suddenly his own blades collided in the attack, and the hero was able to survive and retreat. Pravik started talking about the parasites covering the enemy's entire body, while the main one was in his head. Izumi tried to retreat. Pravik suggested to turn to the forest, and told the hero that the enemy is not good at controlling parasites. It is difficult for him to control all the parasites, so he does not turn the head. Pravik started talking about how they need to chop off the enemy's head, after which Pravik asked him to trust him. The enemy caught up with the hero and attacked. The hero dodged all the attacks and tried to move unpredictably. Then he ran straight at the enemy. The enemy tried to attack again, but the hero was in front of him and cut off the head of the strong enemy, and his body fell to the ground. Suddenly Pravik became numb as the enemy's body did not die, and the enemy changed his head, then returned the triki to his right hand. Pravik started talking about the fact that there were more than 3 enemies. Pravik felt that the parasites in this body were 5. It turned out the past one just couldn't control all of them. The hero realized that the situation was shit. At that time the enemy was talking about how they had moved far enough away. The enemy began to move through the trees at a great speed. Then his true form appeared and he began to attack Izumi. They had to get out of the forest as soon as possible. At that time the enemy didn't release his pressure on the hero, and Izumi was able to get out of the forest and started running away from the enemy. At that time the enemy thought about the guy being fast enough, then transformed his legs. The hero tried to stop the car, but in the end the ruler had to intervene and they started riding in the back of the car. At that time their enemies started to run faster than the car. After that a battle started between them. The driver saw a terrible picture. After that the enemy started to climb to the hero, and Pravik sharply turned that thanks to what one of the enemies flew off the car. The driver continued his movement. At that time the enemy got up and ate one of the people, and the second instantly killed. He was losing consciousness because of the damage. At that time, the detective summoned the very man the hero had recommended. At that time another man arrived who assumed the man had information about the parasites. At that time Izumi could finally rest. The ruler started talking about how they had no money for food. At that time the ruler took out the money he stole from the driver of the car. He talked about how he would do anything to survive. The guy ate the food. Then he heard on the news that the detective had lost his family. Pravik assumed that the family was killed by accident. Originally they wanted to kill the man himself. At that time, the hero called his father and advised him to pack his bags and leave home. The father questioned the hero about what had happened, while Izumi said that he had always been a good son. and then once again asked him to leave the house, and the hero confessed that the monsters were coming to him. The father believed his son, and then they ended the conversation. At that time, the detective was talking to investigators. The man promised that they could get revenge on the monsters if they had information. The man confessed that he had always read books about great detectives, but his dream was not destined to come true. At the time, the man said that he believed that a man could become a great detective. The man decided to tell everything and asked for paper to put his thoughts on a piece of paper. At that time, the hero talked to the ruler in his consciousness. It turns out that every time he forgets the conversation in the dream, as well as the ruler from the subconscious said that this is the last time they meet in a dream. At that time, the guy woke up on a bench. He was cold. At that time, the parasites were angry that they had 2 failures. At the time, the vermin were talking about how they thought the detective was there and not his family. The girl explained that humans should not be underestimated, because together they are very strong, as there are billions of them. She explained that if they go against humans, their species is doomed. At that time, the hero's girlfriend did not understand what happened to the protagonist. At that time, a classmate gave the girl a briefcase. At that time in the evening, people went into the room and could not understand why the man was missing. They saw the records of parasites and all the information about the enemies. At that time, the man was moving around the street with a creepy look. One of the parasites thought the girl was a danger to their species. At that time, the girl was feeding the baby and thinking that he was quite unusual like the world around him, and pondered why they had come to this world. At that time, the hero's girlfriend couldn't get to his house and worried about Izumi being alive. At that time, the girl noticed that other parasites were approaching her, and the detective was following her from under the bushes. The girl went away, and one of the parasites appeared in front of her, and the others also came out to surround the girl. The man didn't understand why the girl didn't run away, and the girl decided to act illogically as she was interested. One of the parasites explained that it was because he felt that she would soon become an enemy, while the girl explained that all parasites act only by logic. The girl was happy that everyone began to behave differently as it is a manifestation of individuality. Then the girl said goodbye to the parasites. A battle started, but the girl retreated. The parasites said that their bodies were stronger, but the girl continued to fight, and with the help of cunning was able to pierce the body of one of the enemies. The other parasites continued to pursue. At that time, the girl ran without part of her head and laughed at the top of her voice, which incredibly frightened a couple who were just walking through the city. The people approached the creepy girl, after which she regained her face and looked at the people with an incomprehensible look. After the girl started putting rocks in her bag, then explained that it was for defense. The guys told that they saw the girl without half of her head. At that time, the girl made a joke and showed her empty head. At that time, the man didn't understand why she was acting so illogically. He thought she was suicidal. At that time, one of the enemies felt terrible and attacked the ally. Then his body burst from the inside, and the parasite climbed into the ally's body. The parasite who was nearby felt that one of them died. At that time, he saw his ally dying. She asked the guy to stop fighting, but he thought that the girl's plan was to take over the body. The man talked about how the girl needed to die to destroy part of the Tamura Reiko. The girl appeared at his back and easily tore him to pieces. He couldn't understand how she did it. The enemy tried to attack with his last strength, but she used the bag. At that time, a part of her body broke free from her body. She ended up getting a part of herself back. The girl talked about how easy it was since the opponents didn't stand out for their intelligence. The girl thought about where they came from and where they were going. At that time, the enemy finally died and the girl left the battlefield. The girl suddenly noticed that her apartment was open, and then saw a note from the detective who stole her child. At that time, the hero did not understand where his father was. In the house of the protagonist was a girl who asked for help from the protagonist. She asked the guy to come to the park, then said that she wanted to give the hero one thing. She was looking at the photo of the main character and seemed to think about something, namely the word mom. She remembered how the body's mother had immediately exposed her. At that time, the girl tried to call the main character's house, but there was no answer again and she started to leave. Suddenly, a girl came out of the house. The girl thought it was the main character's mother, but the girl said it wasn't. The girl asked what happened to the protagonist. She thought that he was in danger. The parasite thought that the girl was worried about him, then confessed that she was jealous of the guy, then promised that Izumi would be back soon. The girl remembered that she had seen this person somewhere before. She was walking with her friends, and they didn't understand where Izumi was. She believed that the hero would return soon. She remembered the moment when he disappeared last time, and then she thought that now the hero would return, while the guy passed right by her, and she could see him and ran after the bus. The place was familiar. After that, she walked and wondered if the dead girl knew something about the hero that she didn't know. The girl noticed the parasite, after which she started running after her. The parasite ran away quickly while the girl lost sight of her. The man called out to the girl and asked her not to swear. At that time, detectives went to the parasite's home and saw a note from the man. He was also holding the child in his arms, and yes, the parasite also arrived at the place. Pravik told the hero to take a walk in the park, and the girl also arrived at the park. The man asked the monster if she loves her son, after which she said that she understands people and their illogical actions. The man said that the monster is not given to realize what it means to be a parent, and the monster cannot become a human. The man asked what the girl would do if he killed the child right now. He realized that the child was definitely not the girl. At the time, she seemed to feel something. Pravik didn't realize what emotion he was feeling from his fellow man. At that time, the man talked about how she couldn't understand him, after which he prepared to throw the baby, and the girl stabbed his body, after which she saved the baby. He said that he was joking, as a man would never hurt a baby, after which he was surprised that a monster could love someone and fell off a cliff. At the time, the girl herself could not believe what she had done. Pravik told the protagonist that the Tamaya Reiko was moving towards them, while the protagonist's girlfriend sat there not understanding why she had come to this place. At that time, the lawman arrived at the place and heard a scream. The girl told about the man, and soon they found the body of the detective. He was still alive. They asked him for information, and then he sent people. The man started talking about how Reiko was all in white, and she was holding a baby in her arms. Then the man wanted to know who the partner was, and asked for a name. At which time the man called him a man, then talked about how the guy was suffering just like him. At that time, the man apologized to his loved ones, and before he died, he started talking about how he was glad he didn't hurt the child. The man believed that this man would definitely be seen as a hero. Suddenly, all the girls in white clothes were hunted. They were looking for her with all their might, as Reiko could not be missed. At that time, the hero saw the girl, and they stood in front of each other without saying a single word. The girl was standing with her child. At the time, the hero was disgusted to look at the girl. She said that she would like to discuss a lot of things, but she could not. She confessed that she had killed 36 people. She tried to make up for the lack of meat by eating ordinary food. She tried to realize what they were to each other. She thought they were two sides of the same coin, and also assumed that they were the spawn of their species. She understood the guy's emotions. Then she said that they were very fragile, then asked the guy not to hurt the parasites. She also said that the guy was 1 in a million, and also gave advice. She recommended not to fight that Gato as he was incredibly strong. She also said that even he was a fragile parasite created by her. She started laughing, then people ran to the place. The girl couldn't finish. At that time, the detective recognized Izumi. He thought that it seemed like a normal situation, but since they were together, it was strange. The man began to think that the girl was a parasite named Tamura Reiko. He saw traces of blood on the child. Then he ordered his men not to come any closer. The man started talking about how the girl had just killed a man, but she tried to pretend that she hadn't. The man asked what the kid had forgotten in this place. Then he asked the investigator's name, and the hero easily said his name, after which the investigator was glad that the hero remained human. The men took out guns, after which they prepared to attack. The girl started screaming that they would not shoot, but the man shot, while the main character's girlfriend heard it. Reiko survived the gunshot and congratulated the men who started shooting from all sides, and Prak asked Izumi not to react, while the girl tried to protect the baby. The girl started to worry that there might be a hero in the place where the shots were fired, but she decided to calm down and started to run. Suddenly, she felt the girl who had died, and she looked in the direction of the gunshots. At that time, Reiko didn't attack and started to approach the hero. She looked at the guy and hoped that the guy would realize that she didn't want to do any harm. She changed her face to that of a mother, after which the ruler tried to talk Izumi out of it. The investigator asked to stop the fire. At that time, the girl told the hero that she thought for a long time why they came to this world. She could not answer the question, because there was always a new one. The girl tried to understand many things. but in the end she realized that she was not given to realize this thing. The girl said that she had found the answer to one of the many questions, namely that she had never been able to harm her child. She asked to raise the child so that he could grow up as a normal person. The girl thanked the guy, then said that she had long tried to imitate people, then confessed that she liked it. After these words, she fell to the ground and died. Pravik could not believe what he had just seen. At that time, the child began to cry, and the hero was left standing with a crying child in his arms. The boy remembered his mother, how she always protected him, and how she protected her child Reiko. It seemed that his heart wound was beginning to heal, just as the seer had told him. The boy remembered the girl who had once asked if the boy would come back. The boy imagined a different outcome in which the parents had just returned from a trip, and tears began to well up in his eyes. The girl ran up to the scene and also cried, because her favorite came back, and cried as he was incredibly sad. Later, the usual procedure began. The girl was photographed and the child was observed. The girl was also questioned, and Izumi was asked to provide information. The hero smiled at his girlfriend and then went along with the people. Later, the girl walked down the street and thought about something to her friends. She told them that the guy will soon start going to school again. The girl was thinking about Izumi finally coming back, which made her happy. At that time, the hero talked to his father and also told him that he was very tired. The doctors discussed that the main character's nerves were incredibly strong. They thought that the guy didn't have any powers. At that time, one of the criminals was being transferred to another place. People were prepared for this bastard, after which he began to laugh. The criminal was happy that people believed him. He was completely insane. He was brought into a room with cameras, headphones, and a glass. Izumi was summoned, and he began to go with the doctor. The hero was worried about what might be waiting for him. Then the headphones were put on the criminal's head, and the hero was told to wait for his turn. In this room were several other people. But the task of the criminal was to calculate the person who has the ability as well as the criminal. He was worried that one of the people may be a monster. The investigator said that the glass is armored. One by one they started to call people, and they stood in front of the criminal. The man looked at the criminal and thought that he was not a parasite, but he did not respond to telepathy. The man thought that the criminal did not have the ability. They talked about how there could most likely be only one telepath, namely the hero. The criminal called the man a delusional. Suddenly, when the girl came in, his face changed, the criminal started twitching, and they decided to get out of that place. The girl started yelling that there was definitely a parasite sitting in the man's body. The last one left was the hero, who started to move into the room and saw the criminal in front of him. The hero could not say anything about the man he saw. The man believed that something was attracting the parasites to the hero, or the hero could tell the difference between a human and a parasite. The man thought Izumi was the partner. Suddenly the criminal fell asleep, but after he woke up he apologized and saw the hero. He started to say that the guy is very nice. But suddenly the criminal's look completely changed. Then he asked that the hero would look into the eyes of the criminal. The guy looked into the eyes of the criminal, and he was incredibly serious for the first time during the experiment. The hero didn't understand what was wrong with this criminal, and worried that he also had a parasite. The hero turned to the ruler, but it was at this tense moment that the ruler fell asleep. They looked into each other's eyes, and the guys couldn't understand why there was such an atmosphere, while the criminal thought about the fact that he didn't think he was special. Although he could easily distinguish monsters from humans, he assumed it was because he knew more about human behavior than anyone else. He had killed a lot of people. He easily understood that monsters were not human. When he saw a monster for the first time, he was amazed that they hid so easily among humans. If you stand looking at the crowd once an hour, you can see such a creature. The guy didn't want to mess with them as he realized that they were horrible creatures. The guy had once arrived at the scene of such a crime, and the police thought that a man had been killed by this guy, and that's how he ended up in this place. The girl asked for it to stop, while the investigator talked about how even the hero was getting nervous now. The man talked about the guy's potential, then said that he had imagined that Izumi wasn't human, then explained that he was still imagining things. In the end, the father and son were asked to stay at the hotel for a few days, and then they were given security. Izumi went to Hirama and wanted to know how the child was doing. The man said that they would examine the child and then give him to his foster parents. The guy was worried about the child. At that time, the investigator said that if the hero is related to Reiko, they will ask him to stay. Then the hero was scared, the investigator was just joking. The father went to take a shower, while the hero began to think about what kind of criminal he was, because the look of that man was much scarier than many monsters. Pravik was surprised that Izumi was afraid of the man. The hero was well aware that the criminal was killing people. In the end, he decided not to think about it, although he realized one thing, that just as there are terrible people among humans, so among the parasites there are exceptions, such as Reiko, who healed the wound on the heart of the hero. At that time, the police officers were judging some plan. They were thinking that once they execute this operation, Harama will definitely get into the bosses. They talked about how they would need to find and destroy all the vermin in the building. Then the man said that if they used the ability to defeat the monsters, they would have a better chance of winning. The man thought that the criminal should be taken with them. At that time, the man thought that the equipment they had would be enough. The man said that parasites are not human and they should get rid of these creatures. At that time, the parasite men were discussing the loss of their organization. They didn't understand what happened to Reiko, but the death of the three brothers was logical as they were killed by a girl because they decided to attack. The parasites realized that it would be harder for them now. At that time, Izumi said hello to the girl who gave him everything he missed. His friends came over and were happy that the hero had come to school. In gym class, the protagonist was preparing to run. The teacher asked him to do his best. The protagonist started and began to run at a great speed while remembering the events of the past. The classmate was shocked by the result of the protagonist. At the time, Izumi thought he could run even faster. The hero didn't seem to want to show his body to the others, but one of the classmates took off his t-shirt and everyone saw the hero's huge scar on his heart. Suddenly, the girl hit the guy on the head, after which they smiled at each other. In 3 months their school will be over. They discussed how many things have become of them, and the hero said that it is necessary to take up studies, so Kaken was going to pass exams. Suddenly a man showed up. The girl tried to get the guy away, and they started to walk past. He promised that they could win, but the man was worried that they lacked something, and then asked the hero for help. At that time, the girl could not understand why they needed a hero. They all wanted to forget the horror they had experienced. They dreamed of studying like normal school children, but they see rivers of blood. The hero still arrived with the investigator. The man began to talk about the fact that the schoolboy was there when the girl was killed. He asked what was the most useful weapon. At that time, the hero remembered Prak's words that the flamethrower is a great weapon against parasites. He also said that as soon as the body catches fire, the body will panic. It is with the help of fire that even Gato can be defeated. At that time, the man thought that the flamethrower was not an ideal weapon because there could be many parasites, but each parasite had one heart. Finally came the day of the operation. Suddenly people could not understand why the special forces came to them. At that time, the parasites who were in the building were worried, as the situation was gaining dangerous momentum. At that time, people in the rear prepared sensors to detect the parasites. The whole building was declared an emergency. They said that there was a terrorist in the building. Then the military started to enter the building and blocked all the exits and entrances. The military went inside, while people gathered in the lobby, where the military made sure that no one escaped. The parasite realized he couldn't escape in this environment. One of the policemen said to evacuate 7 people at a time. The criminal said that through the camera it was very difficult for him to recognize the parasites. At that time, the hero went inside, and the criminal started joking about the main character. At that time, the guy looked at the image, and the man begged the guy to try, while the hero remembered the girl's words that she couldn't finish. The head, who was a parasite, said to take out the old people and children first. The first group of people started to come out of the building. The people started looking at the X-ray of the people, and that was how they could distinguish the parasites from the normal people. They continued to scan the people. At that time, the hero asked how many parasites were in the place, and the ruler said that there were many. At that time, people noticed one of the parasites, as there was not a single bone in his head. The people were moved through the scanner, while the parasite did not want to show any sign. The military intervened so that the parasite was separated from the rest of the group of people, and the military instantly opened fire on the parasite, which started to attack back, although it was useless as the host body died very quickly, and now one of the parasites was eliminated. The body lay on the ground while the men rejoiced at their success. The man ordered the body to be removed and then sent the next group. The man thought about the importance of ammunition. That's why they were all armed with shotguns. People were scared. People were talking about how it was a sniper who fired a warning shot. The vermin realized that one of their kin had just died. People began to be brought out again while the military looked at the X-rays. They couldn't understand where the parasites had gone. At that time, the captain was informed about the call. It turned out that the parasites had telepathy. That's why they sent a criminal to help them. At that time, one of the parasites spoke to the military man and then convinced that there were civilians in the building and continued to convince them that they should go to them. The man realized that they were parasites, which is why he ordered them not to leave. The maniac walked to the place and complained that he was handcuffed. He asked for them to be removed, and he succeeded in convincing the man. At the time, the hero was thinking that he and Pravik should help, while Pravik refused. The parasites were angry that the humans wouldn't let them in. They tried to cause panic. While a new group of people started moving and the parasite noticed the same device, they stood behind each other and now they couldn't be identified. A man started shouting that they were parasites. After the man was killed, he apologized for being mistaken. The people were very scared while the military started to scare them. Suddenly, the man turned out to be a parasite who joined the battle. At that time, a girl also joined the battle and she was killed, but the body got to other people, which caused everyone to panic. The parasites covered themselves with humans, but the military still kept firing. A group of vermin decided to leave under the noise. At that time, the humans decided not to open fire. The parasites fought to the death and the military fired until they stopped moving. A captain arrived on the scene and ordered everyone to lie down on the floor and warned that he would shoot anyone who disobeyed. One of the men disobeyed and was shot in the heart. The others realized that it was not worth going against the military. He told the people that there were monsters in this place, which they were ordered to exterminate. At that time, the hero thought that he wanted to help but didn't know how. At that time, the military decided to split up. They went in search of the rest of the parasites. They took the killer with them, of course. Obitsa asked to remove the bracelets. At that time, the man was incredibly scared and didn't know what to say. At that time, the military began to move through the building. They moved very cohesively and professionally. At that time, one girl was incredibly frightened, and they started threatening her with weapons. One of the vermin used the man as a redoubt, but ended up being shot anyway. At that time, one of the enemies approached the strongest parasite. He didn't understand why they weren't running away. He thought the man would have no trouble escaping. He himself wanted to watch as it was all very interesting. The man confessed that there was no point in running away, after which they separated. At that time, the commander listened to a report from his man. Then he got angry and divided the squads, after which the groups began to move to the designated sectors. The killer said that they were killers like himself. The commander said that he understood the difference between parasites and humans. A group of military men saw a huge number of corpses and realized that the squad had engaged the enemy. The other soldiers were unable to open the doors and broke them open. In front of them were incredibly frightened people. The criminal said that they were ordinary people. The main squad continued their movement. They saw a man, and the commander ordered to shoot, after which the guy fell to the ground. Turns out the commander was right, and it was a parasite. The subordinate was surprised by the commander's insight, who in turn ordered the extermination of all parasites. People won from the very beginning for the reason that they did not worry about people's lives. Thanks to this, parasites lost so easily. The hero remembered the girl's words about parasites being fragile and the request not to hurt them. At that time, the criminal complained about the fact that he was walking in the front rows. A man appeared in front of them, and the criminal ordered to shoot. The men listened and shot in the arm. After which the parasite started to run away, and the military quickly followed him and shot the parasite instantly. At that time, the strongest parasite realized that shotguns are really dangerous. The criminal saw this parasite and ordered to shoot, but as soon as he looked him in the eyes, he panicked and started to run away hysterically. The parasite ordered to fight elsewhere. While the perpetrator was caught, the perpetrator talked about how that man was incredibly scary. At that time, the military surrounded that parasite. He gave them a head start of 2 minutes, and a huge amount of gunfire started flying into his body. But the enemy not only didn't fall, he didn't even start bleeding. The soldiers heard the sound of metal, after which the parasite instantly returned all the bullets back, instantly killing one of the soldiers. After that, the enemy fired many more bullets, after which the men were defeated. He was surprised that one of the men was able to survive. It turned out he was saved by his body armor. Finally, the man shot, but the monster survived. The enemy gave the man a second chance. At that time, the commander reported that 2 squads were destroyed. The criminal and the hysteric laughed, but he began to be threatened with a gun. The parasite left the room and began to move deeper into the building. At that time, the military moved to the hall. They went inside where they saw one of the enemy. They prepared to shoot while the enemy said hello to them. At that time, the commander was informed that they found one of the enemy and he ordered to shoot to kill. At that time, the enemy asked the men to sit down. He was well aware that the victory of the men was only a matter of time. He was well aware that the men were the strongest in the matter of killing. He began to talk about the good purpose of killing people, that is to kill people, as it would save nature. He began to talk about how parasites should be valued, as they were the ones who had to restore the balance in nature. He also talked about how life on Earth should be protected. Suddenly he was called a freak. Then he started talking about how they were sacrificing everything around them. At that time you should value everything around you more than your own miserable life. He thought that you should maintain the world balance. He thought that all humans were nothing more than creeps. Then he called all humans parasites and his body was pierced by a huge amount of gunfire. To the surprise of all humans, the man was not one of the monsters. He was just a normal person who just had a different view of the world. Suddenly, a parasite arrived in the room and started moving towards the humans. He looked directly at his ally and confessed that he could never understand him. The parasite began to talk about how people are completely stupid. At that time, the criminal arrived at the place, and there was a huge amount of dead bodies of military men. At that time, the commander was reported about the new parasite, after which the detective was shot in the stomach. The criminal did not obey the law and shot his caretaker. He didn't want to die and started to get away from this horrible place. He realized that the monster could easily defeat all humans. At that time, the parasite thought about the fact that he never cared before why he was in this world, but he realized that his main purpose was to fight. At that time, Pravik started talking about how they should go home. At that time, the hero didn't realize how to defeat that particular monster. Pravik thought that they had no effect on them. At that time, the hero thought Pravik was very strange. The soldiers met the enemy. He began to look with his creepy eyes and the men opened fire, but were instantly destroyed. The commander advanced towards the monster. While the enemy called the humans very hard-headed, the enemy easily defeated the humans. The humans begged not to shoot, but the commander ordered to shoot. While the parasite was approaching the military, the commander realized that the situation was not good and decided to find an open space. They started moving towards the roof while the commander started firing the mortar. They continued their movement, while the man thought that the enemy was incredibly strong and they needed to get out as soon as possible. At the very end, the commander turned to the people who had been killed long ago. It turned out that only the commander had reached the roof. Each of the military was brutally killed, and now the guys were left alone. The parasite said that the protection did not cover the whole body. It turned out that even he had weaknesses. He reflected the attacks of the man, but even the explosion did not hurt the parasite. The Virag attacked the human and easily defeated him. At that time, the people in the rear heard gunshots on the roof. At the end, the commander called the parasite a terrible creature. At that time, the parasite considered himself a predator, and then the man thought that it was worth trying a flamethrower. Suddenly, a man's head fell from the roof. At that time, the Prak began to talk about what he warned. The hero was frightened at the sight of the parasite. He could not say a word. While the enemy was talking about killing Izumi, the policeman fired a huge number of bullets, but none of them killed the parasite. It turned out that the man was tired, and that's why he left the battlefield. The policeman was frightened, and Izumi was incredibly frightened. The man began to question the protagonist, but he was already scared, and then he went to the bush and saw his severed head. It turned out to be a nightmare. Pravik felt the nightmare, and then they talked about how Gato was coming to them soon. Pravik wasn't going to give up. He offered to call for help. He offered to bring in the military. The hero wasn't going to take responsibility for the deaths of people, and Izumi said that Pravik would always be himself. The hero had already said goodbye to his father and started to leave. The hero had the idea to run far away, where Gato will not find them. The guy didn't know what to do, as the ruler had just fallen asleep. The hero began to dream that all around is Gato, who is already near and ready to kill him. The guy was incredibly scared. He realized that if the enemy attacks, the hero is finished. One of the men hit the hero with his shoulder, after which the guy apologized. The guy kneeled down in front of the insolent man, and he began to wipe his leg, and the hero pounced on them with fists as he was incredibly scared. With that sort of thing going on, the evening came. The girl seemed worried. She saw the protagonist and then said that he had skipped class again. The guy said he was a truant and a loser. The girl asked him not to say anything, after which the guy hugged her really hard. He was shaking. The girl asked him to let her go. At that time, the guy started to run away. It was late in the evening. He was sitting on a bench. At that time, the ruler said that running far away is also a good option. The guy was thinking that he was about to graduate, and then he noticed a girl who was able to find him. She confessed that she knew what the guy liked about parks. He apologized for today. At the time, the girl thought he was very strange. She sometimes feels like she doesn't know him at all. The girl offered to go to her and talk. The hero thought that when life on the brink came only one thought, namely to survive. The guy slept with his girlfriend, but at the same time he thought that he was the same as a ruler, because he also wanted to survive. The girl called the hero very cool. She also said that there were many trials. She thought that everything will be fine. At that time, the hero said that he loves the girl very much. She thought that the guy likes to daze at the end. After that, they kissed, and the hero finally decided to live. The guy was walking down the street. After that, Pravik decided to ruin his mood. They started to run away. After that, they stole a car, and the hero was amazed that Pravik knows how to drive a car. Izumi asked him to go where there were fewer people. The enemy was driving down the road when suddenly a car started flying at him. Everything was covered in fire. The guy asked if they got a plan, but the enemy survived. Prakuk suggested to run away as soon as possible. They started running deep into the forest. After that, Pravik told the guy to stop, which the hero didn't understand. Pravik thought about what plan they should come up with. At that time, Pravik said that he was as afraid of death as the guy. At that time, the hero started to calm himself down, and he came to normal. They thought about the fact that the enemy outnumbered them in literally everything and their chances of victory were zero. They thought about the fact that they would have a chance if they fought separately. The hero took out of his pocket the lighter that the ruler had stolen. At that time, the enemy noticed that Pravik was stretching on the branches. The hero at that time hid in another place. The hero Gato didn't sense the hero and headed straight for Pravik. The enemy climbed up the tree, then started attacking everything around him, and Pravik's body started to suffer. The enemy didn't understand why Pravik didn't respond with blows. At that time, the hero was hiding behind the enemy's back. They wanted to attack the part of the body that the enemy is unlikely to defend. They thought of it as the head, which spends all its energy on controlling other parasites. The hero was preparing his weapon. At that time, the Pravak began to lose consciousness. The enemy began to shout that the hero and the ruler were afraid of him. Suddenly, the hero's voice was heard from another place. The hero thrust a flaming stick into his leg, after which Pravik was able to attack the enemy with one movement, but they were not able to cut off his head until the end. The enemy praised the guys, after which Pravik ordered the man to run away. Pravik kept shouting for the guy to run, after which the man started to run away, and the parasite said goodbye to the guy. He was glad that he had not eaten the guy's brain. If it had happened, then Pravik would not have known the charm of friendship. Pravik seemed to begin to feel death approaching. At that time, the hero ran with all his might and then fell into the river. The guy did not drown. He climbed up on a rock and began to realize that now Pravik is not with him. Tears began to appear in his eyes, and he began to scream at the top of his voice as his friend was gone. Suddenly, the guy managed to get to some house, and some grandmother thought that the guy was a thief. He said that he was, because he was trying to drink his grandmother's water. He apologized and decided to leave. Grandma asked where the guy was going, but he didn't understand. He thought he would get over it. At that time, the grandmother invited the guy into the house. She thought that a guy with that look would not do evil. She said she'd seen a lot of people, and she had the ability to see through people. She said that the wound on the guy's body was not fair at all. She thought that the hero was being bullied. At that time, the guy couldn't use his other hand properly. He was very grateful to his grandmother for her help. She offered him to stay. He asked if he had someone at his grandmother's house. She said she had no one, and then introduced herself. The hero also said his name, and she decided to call the guy Shin. They moved through the village together, and the grandmother said that they would pretend that the guy was her nephew. She showed them a huge dump and told them that some bad person had done it. She thought it was wrong to set up dumps in the village when they were expected. The creeps only showed up when they let their guard down. The guy spent a few days at his grandmother's house, as she always told the guy to stay a few more days. The boy was going to go home and then tell his father about Pravik and how great his friend was. The guy mourned for Pravik. He thought he was a real hero. Suddenly, the hero found himself in his subconscious and saw a small creature. He started talking about losing his friend, but the hero couldn't remember. The creature began to leave. At that time, the hero confessed that his friend was very similar to him. The guy told that his friend died, while the creature said that the ruler is alive. After such words, the guy woke up in sweat. He grabbed his hand where a small eye appeared. The guy started screaming to his hand. At that time, the grandmother asked the guy to stop the concert. It turned out to be a small part of the prak, which is not able to think or speak. A loud scream was heard in the forest. It was a man running away from an unknown creature. At that time, the guy decided to tell the old woman that he wanted to leave. Suddenly, people came to them and then began to ask about the hero. They said that began to happen a huge number of strange things happen. One of the people came forward and said that the monster is not like a man. He began to talk about the terrible creature that he saw, and the hero immediately realized that it is Gato. People did not believe such words at all. They seemed insane. They got to the place where the monster was supposedly, but there was a man, or rather the crumbs that remained of him. The grandmother talked to someone on the phone, and then told the hero that soon hunters will gather and kill the monster. The hero said that the rifle does not take that monster. He also said that the monster is looking for him. The guy said that he just wanted to survive, so he decided that now he has no right to run away. The grandmother thought it was not a sin to run away when it was a matter of life. The guy apologized for not telling his grandmother about the monster. She thought it was nonsense, then started saying that the guy's life was priceless and he should keep it until the end. Grandma realized she didn't know anything, but she wanted the guy to rely on his elders. At that time, the hero started to leave in the evening. At that time, the grandmother tried to stop him for the last time. It was hard for her to let the boy go. She asked him to fight to the last and spin as hard as he could. She asked the boy not to give up and try his best. The boy thanked his grandmother one last time. At that time, she offered some weapon and the hero saw a strange knife. He smiled for the last time, after which he ran away. The grandmother prayed for her relatives who died and also thought about the protagonist. The boy at the same time thought about the future battle with the monster. It was deep night outside, because of which the hero was poorly seen. He realized that his chances of victory are minimal, but he continued to go forward. The guy seemed to think that he was doing it all because if he didn't kill the monster, it would continue to kill. The hero thought that he was willing to sacrifice his life to defeat the monster. The guy was not shaking with fear. He was fully prepared for the upcoming battle. The guy's senses sharpened to the limit and he noticed his enemy. The hero stood and looked at the enemy, who was sleeping right now. The hero began to slowly approach, then thought about attacking the enemy while the enemy was sleeping. The hero was already close enough. Suddenly he started to think that the Pravik might be in Gato's body, but the Pravik didn't respond, and the hero got even closer. But right before he hit, the enemy reacted and started to look for the protagonist. The guy was hiding from the enemy, but as soon as he made a sound, the monster seemed to realize where he was approximately. The guy wanted to leave at least wounds on the enemy's body. The hero began to think of a plan that would allow him to win. He remembered his grandmother's words that a guy should fight to the last man, and now his determination had no limit. At that time, the enemy was trying to find the hero. At that time, the guy was thinking how he could get to his neck and inflict a wound. The enemy heard the protagonist, then began to approach the source of the sound. The hero thought that if he attacked from above, he might have a chance. The hero jumped down from the tree and was caught by the enemy and thrown straight into the tree. The monster began to say that the man is a coward who can only run away. The hero wanted to destroy the enemy and said that the monster suits his appearance more than human. The beast said that it likes to fight. The hero tried to reach out to the ruler, but only Gato was in front of the hero. Izumi started to run at the enemy, then threw a clumsy punch. The enemy instantly threw the axe away, after which he turned his hand into a fist and struck an incredibly strong blow at the hero, from which the guy began to vomit blood. The enemy came closer and closer. At that time, the hero was attacked by panic. He found himself on the garbage can and thought that this is the worst place to die. The monster said it wasn't a fight, but a warm-up. The monster also reasoned that it would be better to fight the Reiko, and the hero remembered her saying that this monster was fragile. The enemy decided to finish the battle and began to approach the hero, who again remembered the words of his grandmother and thought that it is impossible to win. The guy thought that he should have been dead long ago, and it was at that moment he realized that on the body of the enemy after the battle was a wound. He saw a gash, which he could attack. The enemy was much faster, so it was almost impossible, but the hero was not going to give up. After the enemy approached, the hero attacked with a piece of iron and pierced the body of the enemy. Izumi started to retreat while the enemy was out of anger. The hero started to catch his breath, then he heard his enemy. The guy had no strength to run. He thought that at least he was able to wound the enemy. Suddenly the trees fell, and he saw a mad monster in front of him, who could not understand how the hero knew about the gap in the shielding. The monster congratulated the guy, but he was angry at the fact that the man was able to wound him. Suddenly the enemy froze. He did not understand why his parasites began to resist his power. The hero also couldn't understand why the enemy froze. The enemy attacked, and it seemed that now the hero's life would be cut short, as suddenly Pravik entered the battle. And one of the enemy's hands returned to the hero and Pravik said hello to his friend. The enemy couldn't understand why Pravik didn't obey. Izumi cried that his friend had returned. At that time, a struggle started in the body of the enemy. Pravik realized that there were many wounds in the enemy's body. The enemy was literally falling apart. The cells were trying to escape, while the head wanted to continue the fight. Pravik said that this was due to the main character's blow and the toxins he had introduced into the enemy's body. Suddenly, a part of the enemy's body exploded. Pravik said that the enemy was driven by anger. The enemy ran at the protagonist, while Pravik instantly approached and attacked, and the parasite exploded. The hero began to move and listen to the words of his friend. Pravik also said that he didn't mind being a slave to Gato, as he had a lot of knowledge flowing through him. The boy told how sad he was when he thought Pravik was dead. They looked at the trash that made it possible for the hero to win. The hero couldn't believe such filth was dumped in this place. Nyajdiano the ruler said they needed to go back as Gato was trying to recover. The pieces were trying to go back to the head. Pravik said there was a 50-50th chance of success. He thought that the enemy could be resurrected. Then Pravik prepared to kill the enemy. Then he changed his mind. He thought that the creature was his fellow creature. Pravik didn't want to commit murder, so he asked Izumi to kill the creature. The hero began to think about what to do in this situation. It was hard to kill the enemy, because in the end he felt sorry for the creature. He remembered the words of the girl that parasites are weak creatures that should not be offended. The hero began to think about why parasites were created. He remembered the girl's words. He thought that maybe parasites were medicines. The hero didn't want to kill the enemy. He thought that compassion makes people human. Izumi said that he changed his mind. After that, they decided that fate would decide everything. The hero thought that human laws don't apply to a parasite. They started to leave, after which the hero decided that he was committing a terrible sin. Pravik began to ask if the earth was beautiful. Pravik could not tolerate those who say that they are trying for the sake of the planet. The hero changed his mind again. As he is a simple man whose goal is to protect his family, the hero apologized to the enemy, then instantly attacked. Later, Grandma saw a huge number of people who said that they found the corpse of the monster. Grandma was incredibly happy that the guy still managed to defeat that monster. The hero Googled information about parasites. It turned out that no one has never told about them. After that operation, all over the world parasites just disappeared. The hero thought that they learned their lesson, but it was also possible that they began to better imitate humans. Maybe the parasites had stopped eating humans. While Izumi slept, Prak wanted to wake the guy up. At that time in his consciousness, the hero was talking to his friend. Suddenly his image changed. Pravik decided to say goodbye. He was going to sleep. The guy was not worried as it was not the first time. Pravik started saying that it was forever. The guy couldn't believe what he was hearing. Pravik said that while he was in Gato's body, his cells changed. Now Pravik wanted to think about a lot of things and decided not to appear again. The hero did not want to let his friend go. At that time, Pravik decided to take a different road. Izumi did not understand his friend. At that time, the parasite asked the guy to think that he was just a dream. He also said that the hero will not be easy to forget all the events of the past. Pravik began to look at the image of his mother in his head, then the images of other people who had died. Pravik asked to see it, and it turned out he looked the same as always. Pravik was surprised at how people change in other people's minds. Pravik said goodbye to his friend once and for all. He said that the hero would not throw himself in front of cars again. Izumi was incredibly hard to let go of his friend, and Pravik said that he should not continue talking to his hand. Pravik said that Izumi would forget about the dream again. Pravik thought that sooner or later the hero would forget it, and at the end he thanked the guy for everything. The hero woke up, then opened the balcony and sat on the bed. He began to think about something, after which he was angry because he could not forget his favorite friend. After a while, the girls were discussing about the guys. They called Izumi, after which he brought the girl over. The girls left the couple, after which they were left alone. The guy complained about being left behind. The girl told the guy to catch up, because she's always waiting for him. The guy failed his exams, but studying after everything that happened was easy. He recently talked to a friend. They discussed what happened to other parasites. At the time, the hero could not understand. He also thought that all the battles that they went through were for themselves, and in the end, he did not care about the parasites. The hero thought that they could not have liked each other. The hero thought that there is no species in the world that can become a friend to man. He thought that people protect animals because they are afraid to be alone, and that's why he thought that they are driven by selfish motives. The guy said that everything is stupid. You have to love your own species first. The girl didn't understand what the guy was saying. The hero thought that the parasites were not hiding. He thought that any murder could be blamed on the beast. He also thought that the parasites could be Saprotrias, as they all share the same planet. Suddenly, the killer spotted a couple. The guy thought about how long they had been dating, and then the girl made a joke. The guy decided to ask something, and then instantly changed his mind. Suddenly, the hero remembered the criminal, and suddenly saw a similar person nearby. He chased the couple and looked at them with his creepy look. The hero ran towards the criminal, but as soon as he squeezed into the alley, the criminal grabbed the girl. The hero started to run in that direction, but the Ruvga threatened the girl with a knife. They started to ride the elevator, and the hero started to run upwards at a great speed. The man noticed something strange, after which he was instantly killed by the psycho. The girl he killed just as quickly. In the end, there was only one girl left alive. The hero arrived at the place and saw two corpses. He continued walking forward, after which the enemy threatened the girl. The hero told the criminal to stop. Izumi didn't understand why he was doing this. The hero started to get closer, while the psycho started talking about wanting to know information that people won't tell him. He started to ask why he was killing others, and then he answered his own question. He called himself a real person. He believed that people were monsters who always killed others. The man talked about how people should kill each other. The man believed that the hero was different. After that, he ordered the guy to tell everything. The man realized that the guy's body was definitely mixed with the monster. The girl remembered the scar that the protagonist had on his body. The guy begged the man to let the girl go, while the enemy continued his inadequate stories. The girl was worried about the hero, while Izumi said that the enemy is weak compared to real monsters. The hero asked to let the girl go. She told the guy to call the police. She called the man worse than any monster. She wasn't afraid of the bastard. At that time, the hero was worried about the life of his beloved. She remembered that the guy always acted like a hero. He was the most genuine person while the man was a monster. He was telling the guy to do just that, then he was going to kill the girl. She told Izumi that she was always trying to keep up with the guy, and he was always faster than her. She thought that just now she was able to even slightly overtake the hero. Izumi couldn't stand it and started to run towards the enemy. The hero kicked the knife and then instantly attacked the enemy and wanted to catch the girl, but she began to fly down at a great speed. The guy was already very upset. He imagined his friend, who told that people are incredible creatures, and said that the guy should stop crying and start holding his girlfriend himself. The guy started crying with joy. He was very grateful to his friend. He remained lying with his beloved. Pravik did not answer the guy's questions, and he looked at the beautiful sky. The hero told the girl that he finally got the puppy from the trash and buried it under a tree. The girl knew that's exactly what he would do. Suddenly, people saw the dead bodies and started screaming. They thought the couple was also dead. Izumi thought about the fact that they were all born in the same place. namely on the planet Earth, where they are getting closer and closer to each other. Thank you all so much for watching this video. It cost me a lot of effort, and because of this I hope that if you like it, you will put a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.